I'm a mess. No more you.
And I go home. You said things could only get better. I needed more than ever. They don't. How can I believe you when everything is secret? Everything is secret. Everything is secret. Everything is secret. How can I believe it when everything is secret? You see through, gotta make space for the new you, like I'm old news in your rearview mirror. It must be nice, you went and got a penthouse, all your friends partying is real loud. Brand new money with a brand new chest, still a baby bird right straight off the nest like you.
What's going on, guys? DK Poncho live, Cancel Kings. What's up? You got the music, DK, if you want to cut it.
Yeah, you know I like the music.
I see. What's your status on the apparatus, everybody? We've got a really cool topic today. We're going to talk about moving away from your community because it may be toxic, or investing in the community because it's toxic. And I think it's going to be a very enlightening discussion. We're going to discuss all kinds of things from, let me actually pull up the list here. We're going to talk about things from getting a career. And does your career take you away from your community, all the way to wealth? Once you make it, so to speak, do you invest that wealth back into the community, or do you go somewhere else? In addition to that, with your faith, we're seeing more and more people when it comes to Christianity, especially in the Black community, that are contemporary Christian fans or contemporary Christian worshipers and not really invested in the Black church experience. What does that look like for us as individuals? And in addition to that, we're going to talk about interracial relationships. A lot of Black people, and Black men specifically, feel that maybe we shouldn't be investing so much in the current Black community. And contrarily, you look at it from a different perspective of, isn't that why we should be investing more into the community, because there's so many difficulties? And this is not just a Black thing, but this is a universal thing. And of course, ideological diversity. We're seeing more and more men, Black, white, Puerto Rican, and Haitian, whatever the case may be, just don't seem to be on the same page with the women in their community. And they're starting to vote differently. It's not necessarily a Democrat thing. You know, my grandma used to say, vote Democrat no matter what. Those days seem to be changing. But isn't that a divestment from our community? So we're going to talk about all that today. And we've got a number of folks who are on with us, and we're going to talk to them. But before we do that, DK, what do you got on this, man?
Oh man, I'm just ready to dive into it, see where everybody's at with it, see what God say about it, and just go from there.
No doubt, no doubt. Did you want to start us out real quick?
Yeah, Lord, we just thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for grace, Lord, your mercy. We just ask that you just continue, Lord, to guide us and lead us in the way that we should go, Lord. And Lord, we just ask that you guide our conversation, Lord, that we can see you in all these different subjects. So, Lord, we just want to say that we love you. We thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Appreciate that, DK. We've got a number of folks, like I said before, who are on the panel with us. Let's bring up some folks here. I think we're almost full here, man. Yeah, we're full up. So if you didn't get in, we're going to have to rotate folks out as needed. and kind of get back with you guys. But kind of jumping on that first question, DK, that we had. Um, what are your thoughts overall before we get to that first question? What are your thoughts overall with the state of the community as being a Christian man, and should we continue to be investing in it, or should we be looking for something different?
Yeah, my take is that you definitely got to continue to invest in it.
Mm,
I think there is a time to go, but at the end of the day, you want to give all you can give before you go. So
mm.
I
So
take
you're
on that.
saying give all you can and then leave. Am
Yeah,
I hearing that right?
that something to that effect.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we got a number of people on here. We got REJ, we got Kazanari, we got Nikisha, Kenny Futrell, LCSW, MSW, PhD Esquire. Team Love is over here with us. We got Jay, Tanya, and also Drea. There also are a couple other folks that are in the background in the green room. We can only have 10 folks on at a time, but you guys are more than welcome to hang out in the green room as we go through the topic. And as folks filter out, we'll bring you back up. Keep in mind, you can also ask questions in the private chat, and we'll get to those. If you're watching from YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, whatever the case may be, you can leave comments there, and we will address those comments. So feel free to jump on YouTube or Facebook and leave comments, and we will treat those just as any other commentary from the session. First and foremost, let's get to this first question here. We're talking about career versus community. And we kind of see this from a celebrity standpoint. And we know that not all celebrities are Christians, but we kind of want to see it from a perspective that everybody can understand. And one of the first questions we had, especially for the guys, is if you had LeBron James's talent, would you abandon your roots for a more extensive opportunity or stay to uplift your home team? Because as you know, LeBron left Cleveland. He had a chance to stay there forever, like the teams of old and the players, but he decided to move on. What are you guys' thoughts on that with regard to should we stay or should we go? And I want to throw that at Kaz first and see what you got for us, man.
In thinking about this question, I mean, as you know, I've been the person to actually leave. I now live in Texas. I'm from Ohio, and the thing is, it's like the way I look at it, there are downsides to both. The more extensive opportunity leads to, networking, building a community outside of what you already know, which can benefit you in many ways. You can become more of, a man or in my case, a harder worker. You just meet different people who have different perspectives because they're not under the same mindset that you grew up with. Now on the downside, not staying back home, you do, at least for me, see a lot of people that you grew up with and and love, and you think about how much you probably could have impacted their lives had you stayed. Where would they be now? Where would the kids be now? Where would the mindset of the men back home in our community be now?
Now, some of them,
So
hold on now, Kaz. Some of them dudes are just ghetto. Some of them girls are just ghetto. Are
I
you saying
mean,
that we need to pour our best into something that may not even appreciate it?
I'm gonna go back to a word one of my coaches told me, and that is you can learn anything anywhere, no matter where you at. And with me being from Mansfield, Ohio, I'm a product of that, in that no matter my environment, I know I can learn. So, speaking to that point, I think even if they are quote unquote ghetto, there is something that can be obtained there,
Mm,
so long as a person approaches it from the right angle.
mm. So are you team staying or team going, or is it more
I,
complicated
I
now?
already I already left. but I do plan to
Shoot.
go back and hopefully impact, some of my friends. And I have group texts with people back home. I send them job opportunities, opportunities to grow themselves as professionals, things like that. And, I took the extensive opportunity, but I'm still uplifting my whole team from a distance though. So at least I can preserve what I have established here, but still impact them there. So I
Okay.
believe you can have both. You can have both.
We got Cam on here. What do you think, Cam? Guys, if you want to, like I said, we got a full house today. You can leave comments on YouTube. You can leave comments on our Facebook page. You can also, if you're in the green room and you're in the background and can't get into the 10-person session here, you can leave private chats. We're going to get to every single comment. And if you insist that you got to be on cam to discuss something, feel free. Again, the question is there. When you look at Nikisha, when you look at Black men and men in general, what are your thoughts on them staying in a community that may be somewhat difficult to deal with and possibly hostile? Or is it better for some of them just to move on and do something that's a little bit more productive for them as individuals?
I mean, I can't really speak for a Black man in general, but I do believe that there's a time and place for everything. And it might be beneficial for you to, like, I forget what your name is. I can't see your name. The guy that was just speaking. I think it is beneficial sometimes to leave home, to leave everything that you know, so you can really truly evaluate and reflect on who you are. And sometimes it takes losing everything, the connections, what people think of you, and being in an isolated situation to really know who you are, figure out who you are, what your real integrity is, like doing the right thing even when nobody's looking. So hi. I don't think that you really know that until you have an opportunity to like be by yourself. So in other words, it's okay to leave your community and adventure out, gain those skills. And then it might also be beneficial for you to come back home and take what you learn and apply it to your own community, if that's what God sees fit for you. It's kind of like Moses, So like, if that's for you, it's for you. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah, we kind of even looked at Joseph as an example where he was kind of forced to leave home and make a name for himself. And you kind of contrast that with Nehemiah, who was a captive in Babylon, but he really had on his heart that he wanted to go back and rebuild Jerusalem, more specifically the walls of Jerusalem. And to me, those are the two avatars of the kind of men we're talking about here. Men, for whatever reason, are not accepted in their community, put out of their community, or just don't fit in their community, are kind of Josephs, and people who may be seeing their community fall apart and the wall, so to speak, around their community being broken down like Nehemiah, and just really want to go back and build. And they have this sense of nationalism and that we gotta build where we're planted at. But sometimes when you leave, you can catch a lot of flack. People don't always give you a good the benefit of the doubt. We got a quick clip here that kind of discusses that with regard to LeBron James when he left Cleveland. And you can just see the same parallels when it comes to us as individuals and as men, the backlash that we can have if we decide to cash in on some of our talents.
Honestly, I think it was very arrogant, and I think it was a slap in the face to the city who supported him and been behind him since he was in high school. To go on national TV and spit in our face like that is very, very, very wrong. And if you decided that you wanted to go play in Miami, you could have did it in private.
I feel horrible, disappointed. I can't believe that he would do that to Cleveland. I hope he never wins any championships wherever he's at, because he's a loser. He's not a winner. He quit on us at the end of the game in Boston.
He kept us in the dark all the way up to the end. I was sad when I saw those T-shirts yesterday that said, "Please stay LeBron." I mean, what do we look like begging somebody to stay and play for us? If you're going to be here, you're going to be here. And if you're not, then just be gone. But you could have gave us the decency of letting us know before you let the national media know and the world know and embarrass us in the process.
So you kind of have that breakdown and that betrayal that people can feel sometimes when you leave. DK, did you follow that whole Cleveland LeBron situation when it went down?
My fault. Yeah. I think what it is not just that he left. Like that wasn't really the problem. Like I said, I think it was the way he left. And I think that the community doesn't mind someone who leaves with a purpose to come back. You know what I mean? So if you leave eh, to get better for your community, I think the community doesn't have a problem with it. I just think that sometimes the community gets upset when the people who are successful they leave and we never see them again. Like you see some, football players from like from Harrisburg, who's in NFL, and you see them back. You see LaShawn McCoy back, and and a couple
Now,
others.
are they back playing dice? Behind the
No,
the
not
local
back.
club, or are they doing something
No,
productive? Like,
no, that's what I'm
what's going
saying.
on with that?
They're back helping the community. They're building. They're building different things. You know what I mean? They have things going on, but there are some who leave, who make it big, leave, and you never see them again.
Hmm.
So
Mm.
that's
I was
Anybody else
gonna
got
say,
thoughts on that?
I was going to say, when I watched that video, it seemed like grief to me. Like they were just like stages of grief, like anger. They were angry. So, I mean, you just caught them at a time period where they were going through that stage. When you're connected to somebody and they leave, you're going to have some type of grief. And that was anger that you seen. Now, if you were to interview those people, maybe months later, they might be in the form of acceptance where they're like, I
Nah,
understand.
they still mad.
Huh?
No, they not mad no more. They not mad at all. They
They
not
good to
mad at all.
go?
They
Right.
good to go.
But you know what I mean? And even if they wasn't, that's their own, they have to deal with that themselves. You know what I mean? Sometimes the media too will pick 2 or 3 random people that feel this way when other people, the mass amount of people might be like, you know what, he got to do what's best for him. And we just support him. So
So it's safe to say that when we as men leave our community without any intention of coming back, we should be okay and they'll just get over it. Is that what we're saying?
I'm
If you
saying,
leave you
oh, go ahead.
if you leave your community with no intentions of coming back, you have a different motive. You have a different driver in life. You just don't like your hometown or your place where you're at. You don't want to come back. But
Is
I
it that you
feel
just don't like it, or that there's better opportunities somewhere else?
both, both. But
Ooh.
for somebody to leave and come back, it's like no business, no Fortune 500 business was made building all people from one city, from one area. You
Mm.
have to go out and experience different things. You have to get different tools from different areas in your life to come back and make a bigger impact than you would if you had stayed. If you had stayed, you would have still been Leontay from the hood. But now
Mm.
you left, and now you're the Leontay, the entrepreneur, the CEO of a company that can come and build in that community.
Okay, I'm gonna throw this question over to Cam. Cam, what are your thoughts on this? If y'all slow to the trigger, y'all can get bounced with somebody in the green room. Who, Cam, you ready to go? Nothing heard from Cam.
perfect.
We're gonna go ahead and bring in Ryan Noise Kelly real quick. So Ryan, what are your thoughts, man?
Man, I guess I mean I kind of agree with with which pretty much already been said. It comes down to opportunity. But the big thing is heart, right? Do you have a heart to come back and actually build, or are you going to do what Michael Jordan has been accused of for a long time? Is that he doesn't give back. We found out that he does, just he doesn't make a big deal about it. But some people get out and just choose to live their own lives, and don't see giving back to the community as something they feel like they need to do. And it looks like it just comes down to a personal choice overall. But
Mhm.
I think it's important to give back, and leave your community better than the way you found it, if possible. We have these guys come out, athletes, musicians, doctors, lawyers, that are highly successful people, and some of them don't look back to
Mm.
help out. And it is a disservice when there's a lot of knowledge sharing that can be passed down. They
Yeah.
do it a lot in the Jewish community. They do it a lot in other communities, and it's just something that it doesn't seem like, the Black community has really excelled in. Not that we don't do it, but it's not a point that we've excelled in. So those are my thoughts on it.
We got a comment from the private chat from Fireman. He's saying the Bridges NFL players bought old high school. I'm trying to work through the verbiage here. In central Pennsylvania, investment, yes. Community venues for events like urban farming, flea markets, comedy shows, McCoy and his boys. Not sure what all that means, but it sounds like he's talking about somebody reinvesting back into the community. Are you able to bring some light to that, DK? You're on mute, bro.
All right, you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's talking about LaShawn McCoy, and yeah, he's done a whole lot. He just ran off a whole lot of things that he did, and I think that's the thing. I mean, growing up, especially in sports, you grow up to, you want to make it in sports to get out of your community, right? To make it to the big leagues or whatever. But I just think the community expects, hey, when you do make it, hey, come back and help us out, and that's one thing LaShawn McCoy definitely does. Even though he has 2 Super Bowl rings, all kind of Pro Bowls, probably be in the Hall of Fame one day. He comes back. He bought high schools. I remember even a pool that we used to go take the kids swimming to. He ended up paying to keep that open for years. You know what I mean? Like, he gave back to his community, and made like different jobs for people. He has like this like building fund that he does, and he goes around building different affordable housing, and like that's what it's about. Like, don't, even though you played in all these different cities, come back to where you're from and that area that that trained you, that saved you. Give back to us, and and I thank him for all the good deeds he does.
Okay. Jay, we got you on the session here. What are your thoughts when it comes to this brain drain out of the community, like Ryan was talking about, versus what Fireman was talking about, reinvesting? Should men feel guilty about this?
No, I don't think they should feel guilty. I think it should kind of be like a drive for them to keep pushing for change and to do better in their community if they have that opportunity. But I definitely think they should take it.
Anybody else got thoughts on this as far as leaving the
So
community, staying?
I got a question out there. Who say we've obligated to help the community we came from, as opposed to helping the community as a whole? I don't have to help out where I'm from. I can go to LA, or I can go to Oklahoma and help out the Black community in Oklahoma also.
Mm-hmm.
Who says I have to help out my community where I'm from?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well,
go ahead.
just real quick. My thought on that. Yeah, I'm not saying that you can't do that, but what I'm saying is that if your community poured a lot into you to get you where you're at, I think I think you should pour back into the community if they did that for you. You know what I mean? And then that's what I would do if I would, if I was playing sports and my community supported me all the way through, and then I made it big. Not saying I wouldn't, if I played for Philly, help out there, but I would definitely come back here and help out here also. That's all.
But we're talking about NBA stars, NFL stars. We're talking about multimillionaires here. What about the average Joe?
Yeah, I think that, like we said before in the opening, these are people everybody know, and we got to take a little bit of it with a grain of salt. But it does give us a good object lesson, because they are, in many cases, like a lot of folks on this very panel, they're leaving a negative situation and they have an opportunity to do something else, or they have an opportunity to try to do both. So I think it is somewhat valid, again, if we take it with a grain of salt. Tanya, did you have any thoughts on that? All right, let's move it over to Team Love. Team Love is borging out on us over here. That kind of brings us to the next question too. And we talk about, like, with JayZ and Dre, those guys came from a difficult background. Now they got the money. This is the money side of it. Of course, LeBron's got money too. But they're building an empire that's separate from the place where they're from. And it's questionable how much they're actually investing back in. And again, this is a continuation of the first question. But are we obligated as men to go and pour our money, energy, attention, and time into our community? Before we get to that, I wanted to show a real quick clip of JayZ. It's kind of a funny one, but we got JayZ and he's not too excited about his current situation when it comes down to what he to who he has to share his success with. Real quick one, guys.
About Summer Jam 2000. Tell me about Summer Jam 2001. Crazy. It's live. We the champions. You heard
Michael Jackson.
We live.
King of rap, the king of pop. Holla.
It turned out crazy. Big event, 20,000.
It's the rap.
Tell me about Summer Jam 2000.
So you got this funny clip where it's like, this is when JayZ realized that he got to get out the hood. Now, Kaz, you were talking about this earlier. Is how do you invest in folks that may not have your best interest in mind or may not even care about what, your philosophy on getting things done? Can it be done in all situations, or should you just maybe drain the brain and just keep it moving?
I think anything that you do, when it's a detriment to yourself, you do have to remove yourself. Ultimately, you can't help anyone until you yourself are in a position where you are established, where you can actually make shifts that are big enough to actually, cause a ripple or a wave or any type of impact that you want to cause. And like I said, for me, I left, but I do have intentions of helping those, who are back home. But I think it gets to a point to where when you are continuously surrounded by, that environment with those type of people, I don't mean anything bad.
What do you mean by those people?
I just mean people who constantly, are draining, trying to tear you down, or they're leeching off of you. They're pulling everything from you, and you're not actually able to even invest in yourself the way that you need to, and that you can, because they don't see the vision that you see. So, for me, it is very important that for me that I stay in Texas. I'm from the north, but
Well, to save your life, you got to stay in Texas.
To save my life, I got to stay in Texas because there are so many opportunities, even within the last year, to just not only, financially, but spiritually, physically, emotionally. When I was back home, real quick, when I was back home, I was probably $140, $150, skinny, had no confidence. I'm over 200 pounds now. I can bench over 300, squat over 400, deadlift over 500. Those are all tangible things that that they're vain. But I think about
That boy is good.
I think could I've achieved the goals that I've achieved back home? And my answer is no, because I didn't. I achieved them while I was down here where I could focus and I was isolated, and it grew me. So
Team Love, are you on? Tanya, you up? All right, I'm gonna pass it back to Ryan then. So, Ryan, have you ever been in a situation where you've come out of an environment and you got, those goons in the background like JayZ has, and you're like, I got to get out of this? Or is that your cross to bear where you have to bring all your boys up or go in and maybe you get robbed a few times trying to build a business or something? Is it sometimes better to just cut yourself off from that situation? Like, Abraham took off from his home country and Jesus had to leave Nazareth. Do sometimes us as men of God, do we have to just sometimes leave an environment and not come back?
Yeah, my mother used to tell me all the time that if you show me who your friends are, right, I'll show you who you are. And yeah, man, I mean, to be honest, we do have to jump what I call that fence of familiarity because, you brought up Jesus, he couldn't even do miracles in his own town because of the way people saw him. So sometimes you do have to get to a place where your skills, your, and talents, intelligence is really valued outside of a place where people just know you from, way back when, and they see you in a, in a certain light. And I think it comes down to, well, how do I go back and help these people that have already seen me one way?
What do you mean by these people?
the people that I grew up around, right? The people that, know me from, just growing up in that environment. Now that I've, just kind of like Kaz was, just talking about, if I've isolated myself, right? And I've bettered myself. I've, maybe gone to school, elevated myself in my career and in my passions. I now see myself in a different way. So I'm not going to let anybody, take me back or, look at me from their perspective. That is not my reality. So I think it comes down to, if someone does want help, or if I do go back to help that community or group of people, I think that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. It's like, I can't force you to, adopt the skills that I've learned, or, introduce you to some of the contacts that I now have. It also has to be wanted, you know?
Now, REJ, it sounds like we're talking about being sellouts here. Is somebody a sellout if they decide that that they can't go back to their environment?
You're not a sellout if you feel you can't go into an environment because you feel like that where you're headed, where you're at is better for you. So that's not selling out to anybody. And I'm not selling anything. I move anywhere and do what I want to do where I'm at. I don't owe anybody anything but God. But I feel that you have to every situation you're in, you have to learn from it. And you have the tools you learn from that situation, you have to put in your bag. So say you grew up in a small town and you go and be successful in a big town in New York or something like that. You can come back to that same hometown and remember that you're from there. Those tools you learn from there, you can use those tools to reach those people, to better those people. So just because you leave somewhere and if you come back, don't forget how these people are, how to contact with these people, how to connect with these people. Because if you don't, even if you go make it back, make it big and come back, if you don't know how to connect with them, your influence is going to be nothing.
Well, that's a good point, because that's exactly what Ryan was talking about with Jesus. He went back to Nazareth. He spoke at the synagogues. He tried to heal, but because their faith was so small, and their faith wasn't small because he was anything different, but their faith was small because they were like, "Isn't this, Mary's son here? Didn't he used to, play at the local swimming pool and all this other stuff? And didn't his uncle, go to jail?" And they're like, "How can this guy be somebody important?" Don't we, as men of God, don't we face these same situations where people just aren't able to see who we are because of who we used to be? And I want to throw that question at Team Love. Is it hard for people to see us for who we are because of who we used to be? And is that a reason to leave and not come back?
I mean, it may be hard for people to see us for who we are, as opposed to who we used to be, just because they're not used to the growth, or maybe it's hard for them to believe that such a change can be affected. But you have a responsibility to yourself and to God to grow.
That's so true. So if men are deciding to pack up their bags and leave and not turn and not even look back, can those men be sellouts, or are they just doing what's best for them? Or is it nuanced? Anybody can answer that.
To me, I mean, I think it's best that they're just doing what's best for them, and there's nothing wrong with that. The perceived debt to the community, I disagree with. Sometimes you have to move away in order to fulfill your purpose.
Wow, yeah, that's true. And I think that's something to keep in mind. A lot of us, especially the way things are in our communities and the opportunities that God has given us, there is this strong chasm. Should we be putting up with what's going on? Should we be trying to fix it? Or is it better just to plant a whole new garden and build a whole new house somewhere else? And I think that these are issues that we wrestle with a lot as men. I don't think that our communities are as forgiving forgiving of us once we do make it, if we don't keep tipping our hat back to JayZ's old friends with Sauce Money and Memphis Bleak and Dame Dash back there acting a fool. They're going to be the ones that are going to see us as not doing what we should by investing back into the community. And to some extent, maybe we should. But we as men, I think we really got to come to a conclusion that some of us may not be able to come back because we may not be effective like Jesus. And in some cases, we need to go back, like Nehemiah, to go rebuild that wall and rebuild our hometown.
Yeah,
Any thoughts on that, Tanya? Go ahead, DK.
nah, just real quick. The more I think about it, wherever God calls you, that's where He calls you, right? So if we take it on a biblical note, right? Wherever God
Mm.
calls you to go, He calls you to go. So if He says go here and do this, and have nothing to do with that, then whether they disrespect you, put your name out there, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we gotta follow. What I mean? Follow the steps of God. So the steps of a good man is order, right? So if He orders you to go to Texas, then that's where you go. If He says, "Hey, you stay in Texas," that's where you stay. If He say go home, then you go home, no matter what's because people will have something to say no matter what. If you come back home, why he's still here? If you go away,
Amen.
why he ain't here? No matter what you do, they're gonna have something to say. So
That's a really good point, DK. We at the end of the day, I think that sometimes we make decisions that are God says, I want you to help people in America. He doesn't care if you live in Alaska, Hawaii, or Texas, right? And then sometimes God says specifically, I want you to live in Chicago, Illinois, and help America, And in many cases, we can probably reach back and help, what our people in our hometown or where we're from or our community or our culture. But in some cases, it may not be practical, like with Joseph. Joseph didn't have the ability to affect them. They had to come to him. Think about that, guys. In some situations, people got to probably come to you because they may need to take some steps to be able to work with the purpose that God has given you. I wanted to get your thoughts on this too, Tanya. How are you seeing this whole situation from a female perspective when you see men that are debating leaving or staying there in their communities and in their culture? Nothing heard from Tanya. What about you, Keisha? You're seeing men kind of go back and forth on this. And for women, it's not as easy to just leave the culture. Maybe it is. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I kind of agree with DK, and I was thinking about, Psalms 37. I know we're all familiar with, that God ordered our steps, but even before then, it says in Psalms 37:3, trust in the Lord and do good, then He will live safely in the land and prosper. It doesn't necessarily mean the land that you were born in. We all think about it like all this belongs to Christ, and if as Christians, we should submit ourselves to His way. So if that means like leaving where you're at and going to a new land, it's still a part of it's still a part of God's land, His home, everything belongs to Him. So I mean, it's the idea of community. For me, myself, I left my hometown and went to Georgia to go away to school. And, it wasn't easy being a female, being down there by myself, but I had to adapt, and I adapted to the culture. I gained a tribe of people who I trusted like family. And I spent about 10 years down there. And then, I did come back home, and I was able to use my gifts and talents to be who I am now. But I wouldn't be and wouldn't have all of those things if I wouldn't have left. So, I mean, I could say, yes, I did take my knowledge to give back to my community, but I could see myself even in the future going back to Georgia. Does that mean I'm abandoning the community again? It might just mean that I'm expanding and doing whatever it is that God, is telling me to do next. So,
and this is a question for you too, Keisha.
Yeah.
Do you think women have the same pressure as men do when it comes to selling out and leaving their communities?
I don't really know. I never even had this discussion with anybody before because I don't really think the term is sellout. I think if people are out for your best interest, they should be open-minded that you are doing what's best for you and be supportive of that.
Really?
I see what you're saying with people who have like this extreme amount of money, and I don't really know anybody with this extreme amount of money personally to say if they're giving back to their community or not in clothes and secret. You never know what somebody's doing.
So I want to reverse engineer that question for you guys on the panel. As men, have you ever felt that or even been told that you're selling out because you're not participating in something culturally?
Not at all.
yeah, me
No.
either. Yeah.
If you say if I want to go ahead and kick it with my Caucasian brothers, my Latino brothers, or my Asian brothers, they all brothers in Christ. So what you telling me as being a black brother that you selling out with them? Okay, you know what? Well, if you telling me so, that means you have ill intent towards me. I'm gonna go ahead and cut you off. I don't need you.
So DK, REJ never felt that they were being classified as a sellout when they're doing something extracurricular. What about you, Kaz and Ryan and Hanley?
I wish
I'll
someone
go
would
ahead
try
and
to
go first.
classify me as a sellout. I mean, I dare them to. I mean, as
Uh-oh.
long
Yeah.
as I'm right in the eyes of God and in my relationship with God, other people's opinions of what my move should be are not my concern.
Mm. Okay, Ryan, have
And
you
you know,
ever felt that? Go ahead, DK.
nah. And you know what? I think that leaving the community, right? As far as like, I don't think no one ever considers someone a sellout unless you're talking, of course, example that you give with, LeBron. But I think normally that's really never an issue, right? And it's only an issue because of sports. But I think there's other things when it comes to leaving part of the culture. You know what I mean? I think that we'll talk about it later. Like you said earlier, if you're black, you gotta vote Democrat, and then if you vote Republican, then it's a problem. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like
don't
those,
jump too soon. We're gonna talk about that a little bit
yeah,
later.
I know that's what I'm saying, but I think those are more. I don't think nobody has a problem with anybody leaving the community because I think that's the goal. Like the goal is, growing up is, hey, do what you got to do. Not just an athlete, but even a doctor or a lawyer. Hey, go to the big city. Go away to college. Become all you could be. Go to the best school, whatever. The best job. That's what everybody wants for you. If it happens to be at home, it just happens to be at home. But if it's afar, nobody has a problem with that. They're going to miss you, but not going to call you a sellout because you took a job at a Fortune 500 company in California.
Okay, so a better way of wording this maybe is: do you guys feel sometimes that people think that you're better than them?
I mean, they gonna feel that they gonna feel that even if you stay there. You know what I mean? So people, if they're judging, just depending what they're judging by. Oh, he makes 50,000. I only make 40. He thinks he's better than me. But people don't think stuff like that anyway. So I don't even.
But Punch, so I got something to say on that. So uh, so somebody they think I'm better than them. It's a thing called you have bad self esteem.
Oh,
I shouldn't feel a bad way about your self esteem itself, not Rob's.
so you saying it's their problem, not yours?
Exactly.
Have you ever been Have you ever been confronted with someone saying that you're better than them, REJ?
Military life, yes.
I can tell you, and make sure you guys mute your headphones. Every day you make me feel like you're better than me. How do you feel about that?
Come on, man. I know you better than that.
But that being the case, we do know because I don't think people are just calling folks sellouts to their face in the black community. But I do think that there are times in not only the black community but others where people feel that this guy, he went to college. This dude got a brand new car. He thinks he's better than me. Why can't he? How does he? Why does he think that way? Like same thing with Jesus, right? Or with Joseph. Before he got kicked out of his family, so to speak. Is there more of a pressure and more of a comparison where people think that we're better than them because we may have done something or not done something? What are your thoughts on that, Kaz? And then we'll throw it back to Ryan because Ryan didn't get a chance to answer. And we also got a comment from Tanya we're going to get to.
I was just gonna say you said a key word, and that's comparison. And even going back to LeBron, when you think about how people view LeBron, it was kind of like he was the next big thing. He was like Kobe. Kobe stayed with LA his whole career, and I'm pretty sure the expectancy was for LeBron to do what Kobe did for LA in Cleveland. And I feel not that I feel, I know that often when you compare to someone else, it's a feeling of inadequacy that you have in yourself. And it may be that either you believe that you're incapable of obtaining the things that that person has obtained for themselves, or that God has blessed them with. And so you looking within yourself, you say, well, oh, they must think they're better than me, and try to cause an offense so that you can be mad at them. But the reality is, no offense was actually given to you. You created it out of that feeling of lack within yourself, that inadequacy within yourself.
So all
So
those
that's what
Cavalier fans, they were misplaced by being upset that LeBron left. That he thought he was better than Cleveland, right?
Are
Not
you a
he
Cavalier fan? Yeah, but you seem a little upset still too.
Who, me?
So let me set the record straight. People in Cleveland, they were very upset that he left, but as DK said, it was more the way he left. I can tell you those same people that was arguing on the clip. I bet you they are happy as pigs in slop because he came back and won them a championship.
Right.
Yeah, true. But
So
see,
they were they
he
were
had to come back to his community to deal with people that were saying he's too good for them, and people that were saying that he sold out. So is that not kind of the point?
Yeah,
his
but
his community couldn't build with him there. They had to bring people in from different communities to come to that community. So when he came back, he could achieve what he achieved. Like I said earlier, no community can achieve and grow big from people within it. It has to be people out from outside, different attitudes, different atmospheres, different vibes, different everything in order to build it up.
So should LeBron have just stayed with Cleveland and not left the same way Dion should have maybe stayed with his HBCU instead of not leaving?
No, he shouldn't have stayed.
Okay. Okay. What do you think, Ryan? And we'll get to DK and Kaz.
Yeah, no, man, you definitely can't look through the lens of someone else's insecurity and adopt that as something that's actually fact, because it's not. People look at lives through their people look at life through their own lens, and if that lens is skewed because of lack of education, because of bad environment, you can't take that as a valid a valid resource for you to actually build from. So I think that when you have to advance yourself, that's what you have to do, and you take people who are like-minded, regardless of the community that they come from.
Okay. We had a comment from Tanya. Somehow she got she got booted from the show. Tanya, try to get back in if you're ready to mic up. The comment was, sometimes it's hard to help individuals that do not desire the help. She's talking about the haters, guys. I've seen many successful artists return to their communities to help, and they were killed. Look at Nipsey Hussle, right? So not only do you got like a group of goons behind you, like JayZ had with with Memphis Bleak and Dame and all those guys acting silly, and he's thinking I got to get out of this, perhaps. But you also have a situation where it could be hostile. Sometimes people may not desire our help, and they may even take offense to us being there. Again, is that something to take into account, or is it just we should still push through all that adversity and still try to be a benefit to our communities?
I don't know.
Another artist who fell victim to his community was Young Dolph. That's another life tragically taken. And he supposedly was very active in the community, and he went back to that community, and that caused his demise.
A wise man once
count
said
it
that
all
most
good.
artists are killed in their own hoods.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, man, when you grow up in a hood and you become successful, and same people you grew up with, see that success, see like, you know what? Some people look up to you and like, oh man, that's what's up, that's great. But other people like, you know what? He's an easy target. You know what I mean? Let me go get him. You know what I mean? And you don't have to be a superstar for that. You could just be a regular guy who grew up and now might make 50, 60,000. And you're something like, oh, that ain't really nothing. But then somebody who only makes 10,000, you making 6 times what they making. Let me take you out.
True that. Tanya, you're not connected, but if you want to mic up, like I said, get connected. Same thing with you, Drea. So Tanya, your thoughts on that too? Like, if you're able to drop another chat, maybe sometimes it's too dangerous for us to reinvest back into a community that may be broken, right? And this is a question I want to ask the entire panel, starting with DK, Rob, Kaz, Hanley, Ryan, and Keisha. And we're gonna narrow it down to the Black community. Do you guys feel the Black community is broken?
No, definitely not.
Okay, Hanley feels the Black community is not broken. Okay, what about you, DK?
I don't think just the Black community is broken, but
I'm
I
talking
think
about the
there's
Black community.
yeah. Well, to be honest, I think there's parts of it that's broken. I think there's definitely things that need to be fixed. I think the mindset is a problem in some areas. You know what I mean? And every Black community is different. You know what I mean? So it's hard to, you know.
Let me add something to that. Black community / culture is broken. What are your thoughts on that, Kaz?
I would say Black culture is. So I wouldn't say broken. I would say the energy and effort that we put towards things is completely misguided. You know, for instance, a lot of the youth coming up, they prefer to listen to NBA YoungBoy and Sexy Red over their own parents.
Mm.
You know, people's focus are aligned in the wrong places. So, and I would say that's causing brokenness, but I don't think that we are broken as a community. I think if we took the same amount of effort that people put into, being in the streets, that they put into, trying to be quote unquote him or quote unquote her, that we could still have the same level of excellence that those before us imagined that we would have. Being doctors, lawyers, successful Black men and women who grow in the community. But I think our view and how we see the world and the energy that we're putting towards certain things, that is causing brokenness. But I don't think we're broken, because we are establishing a lot of we're the cause of a lot of movements, and a lot of things that are going on in the world today, or in the country today. I'll say that. So yeah, that's my view on it.
Thoughts on that, REJ? Do you think the Black community / culture is broken?
Me personally, I think it's broken, but I think it's still salvageable.
Hmm.
It can still
Ryan,
be fixed.
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with REJ on that. Is that it it's broken, but there's things that can be done. It just needs strategy and structure. Like, what does that actually look like, piece by piece, right? To go back in and make a difference. How do you fix an entire community that is 400 years behind schedule in terms of success? So yeah, no, I mean, I think it just has to be something that's intentional.
Nikisha, is the Black community / culture broken?
Yeah, I was just kind of putting it in the chat because I had a lot going on in my
Well,
background.
one quick thing. One quick thing with the chat, guys. I have to manually pull those into the conversation. If you're in the chat, the private chat here, just go to YouTube, just go to Facebook, and you can chat away, and it pops up immediately, and we can comment on it a lot easier. But it's harder to get this chat into the conversation. So if
All right,
you
well,
guys are able to do that.
basically what I wrote was like, first of all, the word broken is pretty subjective, you know what I mean? But while it's true like that the Black community faces a lot of challenges like systemic, racism, economic disparities, injustices, historical traumas, all that throughout history, the Black community has demonstrated like a lot of perseverance, creativity, and unity. So like I feel like there definitely is areas where we need uplifting. And my last part that I was going to put in there was just like, although we do face these challenges, the way that we can overcome some of these challenges is being able to put effort towards healing and uplifting one another, you know. And that's why, of course, like in the business that I'm in now with mental health, or the life that that I've been given, is to be able to help people to mend some of those you know, those deep traumas that as the Black community that we all have in similarity woven within our DNA. We have, like, you know, systematic trauma that lies in our bones that we don't even discuss. So like the brokenness we all share, we can come together in the brokenness, and we can sit down and have conversations about the brokenness and figure out how we can come up from this. And you know, I still think that there's a lot of potential.
Well, we
But
did
I
have
don't
a
know if everybody wants to put in the effort.
yeah. I personally believe that the black culture, black community is broken. I question if it's salvageable. Um, we have a community that really is focused on things that no other community focuses on, or values, and we've made that the epicenter of who we are. Is it fixable? Only if the people who are right here saying that this is something that's fixable got to go back and fix it, and should be doing that like yesterday. And I'm not sure if we have the numbers. I'm not sure if we have the money, energy, attention, and time to do that. You know, so I'm not 100% certain if this is something that we can do in a reasonable amount of time without a generation or so to kind of get behind it, without the grace of God. That's how I feel. Um, DK just put something from the chat in here. She is right, but I'm helping myself and my circle first. That may be the best approach. Are our kids, are our nephews, or our nieces listening to Sexy Red? You know, are the people who are under our influence, or at least listen to us, are we able to steer them away from things that we know are not profitable? Or is it just an argument? Or is it that modern day lynching, like Tanya was talking about previously, where you try to go back and you just may become a martyr? You know, um, we really have to take a lot of consideration on how deep we are into this, and we all come from different backgrounds, and I know definitely that we all feel that there is some hope in this, and that's good. I'm glad you guys are so optimistic. But I think that there's tons of work to be done, and a lot of that work is sabotaged in many cases. So it's going to take the grace of God and conversations like this for us to be honest. Do we try to fight for that? Do we try to fight for the people in Nazareth that don't even want to believe in us because of whatever, or do we go a different direction and try to build a new community like Jesus had to do with the Gentile church and with the new believers? Any thoughts on that, guys? Tanya, you're up now. Did you want to say something? Unmute your mic, Tanya. Drea, you're also up. Unmute your mic and you can speak. Nothing heard. All right. So there is a spiritual component to all this too. And I want us to also take consideration of that. When it comes to us as men, especially, and our spirituality, we're really way behind a lot on all of this stuff. Some of the numbers that I saw, 70 to 80% of Black men do not attend church services, either in person or online. That is a broken state right there. And just looking at some of the other, there's tons of stats in here, guys. It's just so it's a lot of negative stuff going on. So even if we do get back into the Black community, will it look like something from God? Or is it going to be a Hebrew Israelite kind of thing? Not saying that they're all heathens or something like that. Or is it going to be something more of a social justice kind of thing instead of something that's breathed of God? There's a lot of questions out there when it comes down to our faith. One thing that kind of came to mind was Kanye West in his Sunday service. He's doing something completely different. But the question is he doing that the way we need him to as a true Christian believer? When we start to redefine who we are as Christians, because maybe things aren't working in our community, it may look something like what Kanye West is doing, because it may not be under the authority of something that's traditional. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this is an article here talking about that very thing. Everyone's cutting ties with Kanye West. For church leaders, it's not that simple. And kind of going into a Sunday service thing here. And when you look at this article a little bit deeper, you see one of the pastors here had a comment. I'm going to pull that up real quick. And it makes you wonder, what can we do if we can't depend on the church as a source of our leadership? And a pastor here says, it always makes me nervous when creation wants to outdo the creator, talking about Kanye West. When he turned in that direction, it made me very nervous because it was him creating the platform where he kind of says whatever he wants to and does what he wants with no level of accountability. And as we start to not get the answers that we need from church, or we don't have that connection between church and community, do we run the risk of possibly being unaccountable to God? And I'll pass it to DK first, and you other guys can chime in there.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we talked about this earlier, and I think we all, no matter what, if we are Christians, right, we do have a authority, whether we have a pastor over us or not. I'm saying I believe that we should, definitely be be under someone, but at the end of the day, like, even if you're not, the Bible and God still holds us accountable to everything, right? So no matter what, we still have an authority figure over us. As far as Kanye, I think that a lot of people, especially the black community, the black let's say, let me reverse that. The black church, right? The black church, when the black church sees what he's doing, and I hate to say this, but sometimes they get jealous. You know what I mean? They see someone doing something without the system, right? There's no Baptist convention, there's nobody over him, so it gives him the freedom to do what he likes. And I like Kanye's, Sundays, Sunday worship, Sunday service, whatever. But I think what's missing out of it, at least what I see, because I only see the singing part. I don't know if there is a message besides singing. Like, I think singing is part of, worshiping, but is there a message being taught? I don't know, because I haven't seen like a full Sunday service thing. I don't know if any of you guys have it. So
Yeah, I'm not a real big fan of it, to be honest. One of the commenters from the private chat, says, one thing about the black community, we are quick to judge black men like Kanye. He sees things differently. Do you think it's a safe bet, Ryan, for men to kind of branch away from the church and try to reinvent a new way to connect with people and to find God?
Man, that's tough, man. I think I'm a little biased in this situation. I mean, a lot of my greatest connections and networks came through the church. So I mean, I don't think it's something that should be forced. Like, it's like, I'm gonna choose not to build here and just choose to go, somewhere else. I think, you know, if we're just speaking about black men, you're putting yourself as a disadvantage, because a lot of the upper hands we do get comes, from church members or church network, somebody who knows somebody. I can think of internships that I've gotten through, just churches that I've been a part of. So yeah,
And I got a question for you, Ryan.
Sure.
Did that come through the black church or a church?
The black church.
Mm.
Yep. Black church. So I, in my personal experience, I would never tell a black man to try to, build his network elsewhere without, seeing if, brother, so and so knows somebody, because you just don't know. So.
Yeah, one of my biggest concerns is, like, even when Jesus, before he started his ministry, he came underneath someone else's ministry. He came under John the Baptist's ministry. He submitted to John before he started what he was doing. one of the questions that he constantly got from his opponents was, "In whose name do you come?" And then Jesus would say, "Did you believe in John? Did you believe in John's baptism?" He wanted to let people know that he was under the authority or came through the authority of another man, another ministry that people knew was of God. And that's something that we're going to struggle with as we have more and more men, 70, 80%, right? We have more and more men that are checking out of church, but they may still be having experiences with the Holy Spirit. They may still be they're definitely still getting saved here and there, but they don't see an institution like the church as being a place where they want to express themselves or they feel comfortable in. There's problems with that in and of itself. But when you start looking at the Black church and some of the things we talked about in previous podcasts, it could be a big turnoff to men. And as we can see, 70 to 80% of Black men. So what is this new version of Christianity going to look like when men start taking the bull by the horns and kind of doing it themselves? And I want to throw that to you, Kaz. Do you sometimes feel that the Black church or church in general isn't giving you the right experience? Or maybe you feel more comfortable, like a lot of African Americans do, in a more contemporary church that's less African American?
So I am in a Black church. I've chosen to. Well, I can't even say I've chosen. God has always placed me in a church where I can grow. And it's always been a Black church. Um, but what I will say to the comments you made about Black men not being present in the church, because I have been to larger churches where the population of Black men and men in general is just almost just it's just non-existent. It's a double-edged sword because for me in my experiences, I feel as though if even though you don't feel comfortable or you may not feel seen or heard or that your opinion matters in the church, your presence does just enough to truly shift that atmosphere. And just from my personal experience, I feel like because we don't show up as Black men in Black churches, there are a lot of things that happen within Black churches that continue to perpetuate the problems. Just speaking personally, I was at a church where the accountability for women was just poor. Excuse my language, it was piss poor. And I had seen a lack of church leadership, as far as coming to me in regards to a situation that had occurred. And literally all that happened was they just believed just multiple women who literally had nothing to do with anything. They just continued to speak up because it gave them attention. It gave them, and that's not all women in church. I'm not saying that, but what I will say is, had more Black men been present, that were in my age range, it would kind of it would fight against that. It would be like we would be able to combat that lack of accountability that those women in that particular situation did not own up to.
Unfortunately, I've been through the same thing where I was putting some crosshairs by a woman in church that just I didn't reciprocate her feelings, and next thing you know, I was a wolf. So maybe that's what Tanya's also talking about, directly or indirectly. Some people have lost trust in the church. They feel like it's a female environment, and we're losing so many men to the Nation of Islam, where a lot of Christian men and some men who may not even identify necessarily as Christians the way Jesus would want them to be, maybe investing in the Hebrew Israelite movement, Islam in and of itself. These men are looking for Jesus to be a lion and not just a lamb. And I think a lot of them are frustrated when they go to church and it's a feminine experience and they have to always be in lamb mode because the lion can be toxic masculinity or something to that effect. I don't know. Did you get that thought out there cohesively, Kaz? Sorry, I cut you off. Okay. We got a comment from Elevated Mental Health Services here. Black men who may feel disconnected from the Black church for various reasons. Some may perceive the church as too conservative or patriarchal, the exact opposite of what we were saying, while others may feel alienated by negative experiences or perceptions of hypocrisy within certain congregations. Additionally, societal changes, evolving cultural norms, and shifts in religious beliefs may influence the level of engagement of Black men within the Black church. I don't think Black men are complaining that the church is too patriarchal. I honestly don't think that. I think that people feel the church is too matriarchal. And they would rather be somewhere where they know accountability is going to account for the women as it is for the men. For men, our credibility is our currency. If there's no credibility, then we don't feel like there is a process to advance, you know? And a lot of churches are kind of more communal, you know, so to speak. It's just kind of go with the flow. So I definitely can feel that comment there. Thank you for that, elevated mental health services. Anybody else want to comment on that? And question for ladies, Drea, Tanya, are you guys able to mic up, or is there's some kind of technical issue in your end? If you can turn your mic on real quick just to let me know if it's working or not, and we can move on. Because I'm seeing a lot of comments in the private chat, but it's hard to transfer them over.
I'm here.
Okay, Drea, did you have something you wanted to say?
I kind of was putting something in the chat.
But see, no, people can't see that chat. You have to either
Okay.
speak live on the panel or go to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, to leave a comment. That's not a comment for everybody to see. That's just our private chat for this session.
Okay.
So what was on your heart?
I was more so leaning on the line that Black men become distant from church because of society. Everyday life can take its toll, and once they come into the church, are they really accepted as come as you are? And this doesn't necessarily mean as come in your Sunday's best, but also come in your brokenness, come in like if you may not have the best job, if you may not, I don't know, be married, maybe you have a handful of kids, but are they really truly accepted? Are they really truly accepted as that? A lot of times, the church may see the man as being the leader, but sometimes all men are not leaders. All men are not alphas, you know? So the church may have a perception of what a man should be in a church role, but like I said, every man is not meant to lead in that capacity either.
Yeah, I think that you may be onto something as far as why men don't want to go to church and why some of those men, that 70-80%, maybe 10 or 15%, decide to do some kind of spiritual thing outside.
I think can I add on to that too? Because I kind of feel like as well, when men do come into the church for the first time, people assume that they are together because they are a man, and then they might put them in a role that they're not ready for as well. Like, oh, here goes a man. Like, and I've seen it happen where like all the single women look at the one man that just came into the church, and it's like, whoa, like you can just see it. You can just sit back.
Yes.
Yeah, that brother's starving.
You know, or whiskey about, and he really might, like, he's not coming for all that. You know,
he's just trying to find a place to
he's just
learn
trying
how to read the Bible.
God, and he's just trying to learn more about, you know, the Lord and Savior. He's not necessarily trying to find a wife at this moment, or
So
maybe
who thought
not
so?
even at all at the church. Like, I don't know, but I have seen that happen. And I also have seen them put men in positions prematurely. And they're putting him in a position because he's a man. And it may start off with, hey, can you carry these chairs down? Next thing you know, he's shoveling snow. Next thing, and he's doing.
But is that a leadership position though, Keisha?
Huh?
Is that a leadership position, shoveling snow and telling
No,
people
but
to
I'm
sit?
just saying it turns into a position where they just were coming in to learn more about God.
Oh, I get you.
And they
Yeah,
end
I
up
get you.
being responsible
Yeah.
for doing X, Y, and Z. And
Well,
then it might end up being a turn off. That's just, you know, piggyback.
Well, that is a good point, because the last couple of churches, I worked at a church doing a contract work, and there's another church I was going to, and we did the church in the box. That means that you're working out of a school and you got to put this church together every Sunday and break it down. And the last church I was in, and Drea, we're going to give you a chance to chime in too. The last church I was in, it was probably 6 women to every 1 single man. And when you don't have the infrastructure of men to operate the church, women are out there, putting up pipe and drape. They're outside carrying heavy boxes and things like that to get the church put together. And they did not like it one bit, And you can just tell by looking at these ladies, they're like, we need we need you guys to do something. We're tired of having to do all this physical labor to get this church set up and broke down every Sunday. But with all that happening, as soon as a guy came in, like you said, Keisha, as soon as a guy came in, they're trying to put this guy to work. And he's like, man, I just got saved 2 minutes ago. I need discipleship. I don't need to turn into a Hebrew slave. So I don't know. I think you may have a point there. Any thoughts on that, guys? Drea, I want to give you a chance to chime in on that. Come on, Drea. You was doing good earlier.
Okay, so not to really reflect on too much of what you said, but it also puts me in the mindset of now in today's society with Black men, as far as being like discouraged in the church. A lot of times, from just hearing personal stories, they're starting to venture out with the Hebrew Israelites, the Islam. They're venturing out just to seek something other than Christianity, or they try to hold on to the foundation of Christianity, but they still want to explore, or they want to be, okay, I'm gonna be 50% Christian, I'm gonna be 50% Islamic, or I'm gonna just be one or the other. And this is real life. I honestly,
I will say, Drea, I think that's happening because Christianity isn't a masculine experience anymore. I was reading some of the writings of the disciples, like, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They're disciples. And one of them said that men need to have a beard. They were saying these things back then where it was like, wow, these guys were men's men. Paul has writings. I don't know if it's in 1 Corinthians, where he talks about be men. I think it's chapter 16, and act like men. And I believe we've really had a strong feminist movement in the church. And I think that's primarily why Christianity is under attack, and why Black men and men in general do not feel that it's some place where they want to go. And tagging on to what Nikisha said, they're not, even when they do go to church, they're outside freezing, telling people where to park at. Notwithstanding, hopefully they're getting discipled on the other end of that, but it's, you know what I mean? It's a little bit of a difficult situation. What did I miss there, Drea?
not really much. And also, a lot of stuff is coming up now of like, even with women, like everybody's saying, well, it is, they're doubting God or doubting, certain situations. But and it also comes down to oh God, it just slipped my mind. Like people be like, oh well, is the Bible really the Bible? It was manipulated so many times. No one was actually here when this Bible was written, but we're supposed to follow this manual to tell us how to live or abide by the law of the land.
Yeah, it's just an excuse.
XYZ. And then there's all these other missing books of the Bible, so the Bible is a mystery within itself. Religions is sort of a mystery as well, but it's with how you choose to walk in the religion that you choose to walk in.
Well, the thing about that is a lot of that stuff is resolved with with research and a quick YouTube search. If these ladies can find out a new way to perm their hair or to put on eyelashes, they can take 15 minutes by watching a video from Stream Ministries or Pastor Charles Stanley on the answers to those questions, and those questions have been answered for thousands of years. It's just spiritual apathy, and in my opinion, in many cases, it's just people just want to find an excuse to sin. Cause you're a bit of an expert when it comes down to women sinning.
Yeah.
That kind of brings us to our next topic, and I want you to kind of say a few words before we get into that. Do you feel like this lack of spirituality with women is also something that's pushing men in the Christian community away from the women?
So the lack of spirituality in women.
Yeah. Well, before you do that, Kaz, we're going to take a really quick break, and we're going to talk about men leaving women in their communities and in their churches and transitioning to women in other places. So this is going to be a little bit hot. So I recommend you guys stick around. We will be right back.
You're reaching for the finish line. You dig down deep, decide to find. You really gotta want it. The strength that you need, the will to succeed. This is it. It's for him and for you. Hey, I'm proud of you. Really proud. A Coke. The biggest taste in China. Great race. Who's your coach? My dad.
Watch. Here comes a nerd. Can I play? Listen, Bob. Why don't you go catch some of your butterflies or something? This is a serious game.
So Bobby's an oddball, right? Wrong. It's funny, but believe it or not, some people have thought I was strange. But once they got to know me, they realized I wasn't. You see, it goes back to that old saying, you don't really know someone until you know someone. People have a way of surprising you if you give them a chance.
Come on, guys. What have we got to lose? Hey, Bobby! Hey! I didn't know I could shoot like that.
And that's one to grow on.
All right, guys, we are back. Kaz was enlightening us on some of the issues that he's been having, and DK has been helping him out with all these things, and whatever the case may be, with dating in the community. Didn't you say that, Kaz?
I will say it has gotten better. It's gotten much better.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, we talk about men are leaving the environment when it comes down to investing back into their communities, investing back into the church. And there's another component of this of men investing in the women in their community. When you hear that, Kaz, what are some of your initial thoughts before we get into the actual question and checking out another video?
I would say it's definitely a real thing. For myself personally, as far as pursuing a woman, I'm gonna speak on the Black community. At one point in time, it was very daunting, especially with this, new culture of spirituality that has been adopted, such as tarot cards, astrology, which has been here before. It's been here, for as long as, millennium. You can see it in the Bible. But I would say that, in allowing God to direct me and place me where He needed me to be, I've been able to navigate through that and avoid all of that extraness. I'll call it that. That comes with those types of interactions. Hopefully, I answered what you was trying to say. But dating is much better now. Just dating is better.
Well,
met a lot of women of God.
That's good to hear. Thank God. 80% of what we talk about here on Cancel Kings is helping men be better providers, protectors, problem solvers, prophets, and priests. But we've come to find out that as we do that, they still can lose all that to a bad relationship or dealing with a woman that may not be optimal. Let's just put it that way. So we do spend time, about 20% of our time, maybe more these days, discussing the dynamics of women in our relationships and some of the things to watch out for. And the debate has been going on for quite a while that maybe men of God, men in these kind of spaces, church spaces, whatever the case may be, should possibly just leave some of this craziness alone and just go find something somewhere else. That somewhere else can be, a Malibu Barbie, or it could be somebody that's over in Ghana, Africa, but not from the Black community or the communities of the West. Real quickly, let's take a look at a video that kind of hammers home some of the backlash that men get whenever it comes down to that. And we're gonna start out with the Prince of Pan-Africanism right here, Dr. Umar Johnson.
Who you marry tells me who you are. When you marry a woman, you don't just marry her, you marry her culture, you marry her community, you marry her people. You understand? So when a Black man marries a white woman, he's making several clear points and messages he's sending out to his own people. Because there's no greater symbol of your loyalty to your struggle than to marry a sister who shares that struggle. Black men have married outside their race, Envy, more than the men of all other races in America put together as a percentage. How do you explain that? Is love purely blind? I disagree. Love is a function of your values and your priorities. I would argue the reason Black men marry white women is because they wish they were white themselves.
Okay. Are you guys still hearing that, or is it just me?
No, I heard that.
Now, now Ryan, go ahead, DK, and we'll pass it to Ryan.
Yeah. So number one, I definitely disagree on what he's saying. You know what I mean?
What do you have against Black women, DK?
No, I don't have anything against anybody. I think you love who you love, right? Love is.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
Yeah. So, like I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, love is a choice, right? And whoever you end up loving, that's just who you end up loving. And I don't think you should be criticized or saying you want to be white because you married a white girl. I don't want to marry a white girl, but if I did, that doesn't mean I'm marrying because I want to be white. I think that you just marry who you marry. So this black, white, I mean, I'm just not with it. As Christian,
you need a life raft, or
nah,
DK, you good?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. You know what I mean? So we're no longer Jews or Gentiles, no longer slaves or masters. We're just Christian, right? So if you decide to marry an Asian Christian or an African Christian, are you a sellout if you marry an African Christian who lives in Ghana or whatever? You know what I mean? Are you a sellout?
Our community is suffering, DK. We have 18% of Black men marry out of their race, even though most men of other races are at around that same rate, 12 to 15%. But Black men, are they leaving and abandoning Black women, even though, again, it's comparable to most other races? I want to pass it over to Ryan. Are we doing a brain drain and also a man drain? Pause. When it comes down to leaving the Black community and going somewhere else and falling into this forbidden love?
Man, I agree with what DK is saying. And, I don't think if I fall in love and marry a white woman that I myself want to be white. I'm called, when it comes to marriage, if we're talking about marriage, right? We know that God seeks a godly offspring through marriage. So my first appointment is to the kingdom of God. So if I found a woman who happens to not be Black that I can build the kingdom with, that's my assignment. That's kind of the way I see it. Do I feel? I mean, whoever comes along comes along. I'm not necessarily trying to discriminate, but I'm also not going to say, oh, I'm only going to choose a black woman because that's the only way that we are going to make this work. No, I'm the community I care about is the kingdom of God. That's what I'm trying to build. Yeah.
Okay, so REJ, do you think that there are some things or reasons why black men are not choosing black women?
First off, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, bro.
Okay, let me say, me being in the military, you learn to ride with and trust and kick it with and get to know a lot of different races outside of just Malibu Barbies or Latinas. You get to know a lot of different people.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
Well, I didn't hear it, but we are not made and fit to just streamline one race of people that we fall in love with. So, reasons why some people are leaving black women, I don't know. Sometimes they're just disagreeable, and sometimes they're not the most easy to get along with. However,
Is
a
that?
white woman can be the same way. A Latino person be the same way. Like brother said, I'm not in the business of falling in love with a color. I'm involved in the practice of falling in love with a person.
So with the drain of masculinity out of the black culture, black men dating out of their, not just dating with this stat, 18% marrying. That's not even including the dating. Can we afford as a black community to not choose a black woman? Is it strategic that we're choosing to be with, a white woman or an Asian woman? What are your thoughts on that, Tanya? And we'll pass it to Keisha. Nothing heard from Tanya. Keisha, what are your
I
thoughts?
think you better go to Andre on this one.
Andrea, Andrea, what are your thoughts
Oh
on
my
this?
God. Oh wow. Wasn't really expecting to be called on. Well, I think black men choose to try other races for different reasons. It could be I don't know. It's a false stigmatism. It could be a true false stigmatism that white women have better credit, or they might have more inheritance, or financial stability. It could be because they don't know who they are as a black man. It could be just because I want to have um mixed children because I can't
You
identify
said they
with.
have better credit?
Huh?
You said better credit?
I said it's a stigmatism. Like
Oh,
more in the past, you would hear that. Oh yeah, get you a white woman. She got the better credit. She got the better, finances. She can, basically you can make a come up on this woman. You understand? So it's different capacities why a black man could leave, and more, and they also, I heard before, oh well, a white woman is going to conform to be better. They're not going to speak back to me. They're not going to, they're just going to do as I say and not challenge me. So it could be
are you saying
the
that white
black
women?
woman could be maybe that black woman, or the woman that black man embraced over the years. Maybe she was too strong for him. You understand? Maybe she was just too strong for his character, or whatever the case may be. And maybe he could be used to a woman that's just not, you know.
So
Can I chime in, Punch? Can you explain? Explain too strong?
Too strong.
Are you about to engage in blasphemy?
Okay. Um, some men are intimidated by a strong woman. Okay. Now this is facts. I'm sitting here from experience as well as other people experience. I've been told this by black men before, over, in more than one occasion. Now I can't say per se because that was their excuse for whatever, but I've heard it before. I've heard it before.
So
Yeah.
that lies the question:
So wait,
what is too strong?
too strong may be, oh, you own your own house. Oh, you have good credit. What can I do for you? Because when
I
I
thought the
come to
white
your
women
house,
had good credit.
look. You asked me a question. I'm telling you what I heard.
Mm.
I'm telling you what I heard. These are the excuses I've heard. This is nothing I'm making up. I'm answering your question.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things, a real man would embrace that. You understand me? A real man would acknowledge, okay, we can work together. We can build on what we both have together instead of running away or making excuses saying, well, what can I do for you? What can I bring to your table? Because it looks like you have it all, or you may have the better job or make the more money or this and that and the third. It's just excuses to
Yeah,
me. You understand? It's
Oh,
excuses to me.
I
real
got a
quick,
kind
Andre, real quick. So I just want to say this. I don't think black men have a problem with. I'm sure you said you've been through it, and this is the excuses that they gave you. But what I'm saying is, I don't think a black man has a problem with a strong woman, even
What do you mean by that?
who's looking for a wife. He's also not just looking for what you have, but he's looking for who you are. And you say strong.
No,
No. Let me finish.
I gotta
When you
say
say
something.
strong, yeah,
No, no.
no, I'm saying when you say strong, most men, period, who are trying to be husbands are looking to be in the right position to lead the household. So if you said, okay, we can do it together, but someone has to be a leader. There has to be a leader among the
That's
family.
not true.
No.
That's not true.
Yeah,
That's
that's what the
not
Bible.
true.
That's not-
That's not
so so
true.
you,
You got
so the
when
man.
you
Okay, go
say
ahead.
when you say when
You cannot talk.
some women trying to be the man in the relationship, and I think a lot of our relationships and communication get lost in setting boundaries. So when it comes to a woman, like Andrea said, she comes to the table and she said, I have my own. And you looking for, you looking for a man. I'm not gonna let the blind lead me, right? So when you come to a woman, when I met my husband, I was able to come to the table. We came to the table and I said, this is what I'm bringing to the table. This is what we're bringing to the table, having these discussions. And then some men are intimidated that if you are, you're higher educated, you're more educated, or you have, like you said, you're more established. They looking for a woman that could fix up. But when you're a
Nah.
whole woman, when you know
Mhm.
who you are and you're not looking to be a fixer, like I don't want to fix up, man. Always said this: a half a man and a half a woman, 50-50, all that make a half a relationship. But when you come to the table and I know who I am as a woman, and I'm not looking for you, and I can accept you as a man. Okay, I don't mind. My husband leads the household, and I am. That's what in the Bible. Let's get back to that where you said I was put in his life to be his helper. I'm there to assist him. But there's time you gotta know your roles in your relationship. There's times that he leads, okay, and I follow, and he'll say, "Well, baby, you're stronger in this area. You take the lead." So it's a lot, and not every man, especially black men, could deal with that to take on that responsibility,
So
or
just to
Well, see,
clarify,
yeah,
go
but
ahead,
but
DK.
really, not but really. But what I want to say is that at the end of the day, whether if like my wife is extremely strong, I have an extremely strong black wife, right? Extremely strong, extremely bold, and but at the end of the day, the responsibility always falls on me, right? Uh, no matter if I allow her to lead or to do something in a situation, whether if it goes good or bad, it's always on me because God has placed me as the head of the household. So with me having that responsibility, I have to lead at all times. Not saying that I can't let her do things, but I still have take ownership of whatever she does because that's my responsibility.
Let
That's
me tell you
responsibility
something,
of a leader.
sweetie, and you can go home and ask your wife. There's some if your
Oh, I'm home.
woman, let me, and you can go home and ask your wife. When your
Yeah.
wife is good, baby, it's times that we can make you feel like you're leading. When we are,
Well,
we
that's
know
what I'm
how to
saying.
guide you to make you feel like you're leading. You hear?
Well,
So
Y'all
well,
see how
because
nice, y'all see how nice
that's
I'm
a
being
part
here?
of being a
but,
team.
it, but what
That's
Drop
a
but
the
what
part
I'm
of
mic.
being
saying
a
is,
team.
but what I'm
Drop
saying,
the mic.
but in God's eyes, it doesn't matter if you make us feel like we're leading or not. The responsibility is still on us. So whether if you like, oh, I'm leading or I'm making them think he's leading, at the end of the day, God's going to look at me and say, why did you let your wife do this? That's my responsibility as my family. He put me the head over my family, so I have to own up for whatever she does. So
Okay, what do you got,
And
Kyle?
there's times wives have to own up sometimes with what husbands does, the things they
not,
do
Not true.
when they
no,
step
no, not
outside
true.
their
It's not.
marriages and they're not being leaders.
What do you mean by that?
So
And
what
God,
y'all was saying about the church and just some men don't want to be a leader. I just gave you an example. Some
And
men want to be the woman in the
And
relationship.
some men
Okay?
don't want to be married. They're not
And
looking
they
for
don't want to be
wives
the head of that
either.
household.
Okay,
So
guys,
what
yeah,
do we do
one
when
at a
our
time.
black
One at a
men
time. I
like
promise
what do we do
everybody's.
when our black men
Maybe
do
my
not
microphone ain't
want to be
working.
the head of the household? What do we do?
It's working.
that
Okay, okay,
I'm
Is
saying
my
we're
mic
gonna.
working?
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
I hear you. No, I hear you, and you're making excellent points. All I'm saying that as a true Christian man, that true Christian man who's a husband, he has to live up to that duty. God's a God of order, and he put the order for a reason. He didn't just that's how it's supposed to be. I'm not saying that's how it always is, but that's how it's supposed to be.
Kaz, you had a comment you wanted to throw in?
yeah, I was just gonna say, in hearing the discussion, it feels like what I'm hearing is we're all speaking from a tangible perspective on as far as responsibilities, leadership, and things that happen on earth. But what DK is talking about are is something that's in the spiritual realm. And I would say from the conversations that I've had with women, all black women, I pursue black women, I love black women, that's my perspective. Not saying I wouldn't date a woman of another race, but I prefer to date black women. But in all the black women that I asked them what a provider is to a man. And in every one of their responses, they gave me a tangible answer. But I asked them, I said, so you wouldn't want a man who is a provider spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, as well as the financial provision that comes along with that. And then they were like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, God calls us to lead in all of those areas. Because if a man comes home angry, the whole house shifts. If a woman comes home angry, the man may be able to comfort his wife if he is a true man of God. He will notice his wife is upset, and a woman would do that too for her husband. But the man, when he comes, and I've just seen it personally in my life, when my stepdad and my mom, and seeing how their interactions shift the whole household. And so what I'm saying is that we look at so many things from tangible perspectives because that's where we live. We live on earth. We live in the physical. But the things that happen in the spiritual, and I actually plan on talking to one of my friends about this because he is in a relationship with a black woman that he is not married, and I need to to him about being accountable and marrying her, and making a decision on what he's going to do because God has called him to be a husband. God has called him to be, as Puncho said, a protector, provider, prophet, problem solver, and priest. But he is not stepping into that role, and it's because he's looking at tangible things. Just how a lot of the conversation is right now, tangible. But he has to look at it in the spiritual.
Land the
And
plane,
once he
Kaz.
Okay,
Land
knows,
the
let's look at
plane.
reality.
and
When
but
when
but
you
but
do,
but
Let
it's
him finish up
always
real
when
hold
a
quick,
on,
and
wait,
black
wait,
woman
can I
when a
hold
black
on, wait,
woman
wait,
wants
wait, hold on.
something, right? You ask a
Mm-hmm.
black woman and she say she wants security. It's
I'm being
like,
real nice,
oh,
y'all. I'm being nice today.
Hold on.
So this is the
It's
new
okay.
Puncho.
are we?
Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead.
Am I being not? I'm not being nice.
I said I'm being
Go,
nice.
go,
Oh, okay.
go ahead.
I'm gonna be,
Go ahead,
but
Miss
then I'm gonna
Fanny.
be nice with you, okay?
Go ahead.
So, when a black woman wants security, it's always looked at, oh, But a lot of these athletes, okay, like I always say, like you said, let's go back to the athletes. They will go
Hmm.
get those white women who've been like on the strip poles, and and they'll make them a wife. You know how that old saying, you can't make a whore a wife and all that. And they'll go get these
Hmm.
white women, right? But then when they come to the black woman, they was like, you have to be educated, you have to have this. If not, you're a gold digger. Let me tell you again, when you clear about what you want, I had no
Hmm.
problems of telling my husband prior to me, marry him. I'm looking for security. What's wrong with that? I'm tired of being ashamed as a black woman that I'm looked upon because I want security. I want love. Yes, I want love, but I have no problems with being comfortable in saying I want security.
That's
I love my
that's a good
husband, takes
point.
great care of me.
That's a good point,
So,
Tanya.
what
Kaz,
can I,
real
can
quick,
I
and
say?
then we're going to pass it over to REJ.
Hmm. Okay, so in response to that, I've also asked my friends this: would you date a bus driver that makes 35,000, or would you date a lawyer that makes 100? And all of them said, I would date the lawyer. But then I said, but what if the bus driver and the lawyer brought home at the end of the year the same 24,000? And it's possible. My bills are 12,000 throughout the year because based on where I live. And they kind of got stumbled, and I was like, but they still said the lawyer, and I said it's because of your lawyer and because of what it looks like to be with the bus driver. The security is still there; it just looks different, you know. And again, that's a tangible thing. So from what I'm saying is, as people of God, as people in Christ,
Land it, Kaz.
we need to stop looking at so many tangible things and really view things from God's eyes, because at the end
Mm,
of the day, those are the only eyes that matter. We can talk about security, we could talk about submission, we could talk about all of these different caveats, all of these different things that are in marriage, and the caveats that they bring, and how they've impacted our society, in our community. But the reality is, we need to look at things from Christ's perspective, not
mm.
our
But
own.
Christ and Jesus was giving people tangible things as resources. When he
But he
was
always
giving
pointed back
them,
to the Father.
when he was giving them tangible things
Um,
along with faith for resources,
so
for
But he pointed back
REJ,
to
security.
the Father.
we're gonna get your comments, and then we're gonna pass it to Ryan.
Okay, I agree with Kaz as far as it being spiritual. But one thing that men, black men, white men, no matter what the man is, we require respect. We require respect way more of love. So respect is not cutting me off, not yelling at me, and not arguing me for things that doesn't matter. So once you raise your voice, you disrespect me. When I'm saying something, you cut me off, disrespect me. I have no need for you.
Ryan, what you got on that topic?
Wow.
That's good when you're in
Um,
that type of relationship. I agree with you.
I think it come. Tanya, I do like what you said about security. Every woman needs security. Every woman needs to be needs to feel love. This is a formula, right? The word says, husbands, love your wives, right? As Christ loves the church. But it also says, husbands, love your wives, and wives, respect your husbands, because we receive love in the form of respect. So I think it comes down to the
Men
main
receive
root
love
of
in the
this.
form of respect. Hmm.
Yeah, men receive it in the form. So I think what it comes down to is, getting back to the main discussion. You know, I kind of heard a bit of manipulation when you said to DK that you know his wife, kind of, or wives let a husband think that they are, you know, in charge or running the show. I guess I have a question, and it's that and I always say black women have this mistrust that their men that they chose cannot lead, because that's what it comes down to. If you feel like you have to manipulate or do things or see or have things go a certain way, um why is that? And then
So
why
so
choose a
you
man?
selected the word manipulated. And I also told you when I describe it. I said God put us. When y'all keep going to the Bible, He put me in as a helper. So there's some things again when it comes to making decisions, right? if my husband does not see it clearly in one way, it's my job as his wife to, if I have to go out there and do the research and bring it to him, because I find that he's more visual. So when there's some things that we need done, I go out there and do the research for him, and then I'll bring it back and I'll put it in the outline and say, baby, this is the vision, these are the options. Now, what do you okay? So I create that vision for him. You understand? Because he's more visual.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't look at it like I'm manipulating him. I'm doing my job as a wife to help him. Okay. To,
Well,
to
that
help
time
him.
you definitely explained
That's a
it
different
differently that time.
explanation.
That's a different explanation entirely. So I
Mhm.
appreciate you for actually, clearing that up,
Thank
because
you.
the thing about a man leading his home is that it's his God-given position. It has nothing to do with what I can do or can't do. It doesn't have to do with my skill set, my education. It has to do with my God-given position. And if a woman chooses a man to lead, it's her God-given appointment to allow him to do that. And yes, be a help me. And if suggestions are important, because it says the two shall become one flesh. That means this is not two entities. This is one body with different functions. um
I think that also what the women are saying is that they can't trust a lot, if not most men, to properly lead. And they also feel that since these men, and we're being more specific, since black men can't properly lead black women who are too strong in some cases, they would rather go to, as was said earlier, a white woman, because they're more easier to manipulate, or they're not as strong as a black woman.
well, what does strong, sorry, what does strong mean? Like strongly opinionated, strongly I have to get my way or the highway? When you say strong, like I'm really trying to unpack that, because does that mean a white woman or a Hispanic woman will bend more to my will? Is that is
Drea,
that is that what we're saying?
Drea, you mentioned strength. What are your thoughts on the strong black woman?
Well, I can't speak upon how that man deciphered strength, but I'm assuming it meant maybe that was just an excuse. Maybe it was just genuinely, I don't know what to do with you because you're in a different season than I am. It may meant because you are more established and I'm not there yet. It may be looking like like
Oh, you're saying
infuriation.
that if a woman has more resources, or she's
I
somehow more
No,
assertive in her personality, that strength can make a man feel intimidated and go
yes,
talk to white women.
yes, because I've heard it. I've heard it before, not personally with me, but with other women experiences. And it's not to throw a black man under the bus. I love black men. Period. I love black men. That's what I'm saying. So that's just one isolated, two, three, 10 isolated situations. You understand?
Isolated and 10
That's not
people.
generalizing the black experience of being with a black man. You understand? That's just
Well,
generalized.
I think you ladies are onto something. I
Can I
think that
say something
you,
right here?
yeah, go ahead and
As
jump in,
well,
Keisha.
I wanted to say, like, when I think a strong black woman, I'm thinking a woman who wears multiple hats and wears them well. That's like the definition of strong to me. Like, she may be the mother, she may be the only parent, a single parent, right? But not just a single parent that ain't doing nothing, but actually kids are going to school, kids are looking great, like got their stuff together, they have clothes, they have a house, or something, place to live in, that they're wearing those hats well. So, like, that's what I think about strong. A
Okay.
strong black
And
woman
some
is someone who has many hats. I mean, you may not.
So why are black men leaving the black community? Why are men in general leaving their communities to get away from strong, independent women? Shouldn't that be a good thing, ladies?
Well,
It could.
I don't think that women necessarily choose to be the strongest black woman. I have no choice.
We put in on positions. Exactly. We're put in those positions. I would rather you Yeah, we're putting a
embrace my
position.
You're
femininity.
forced to be strong.
I'd rather embrace my female side of me.
Yeah,
Commit
my
to
feminism.
you
Yes,
to do
I want
everything
to
you're supposed
embrace
to.
my feminism more.
You want to embrace what?
My feminism, as in,
What do you mean by that?
like they said, you may be too strong. It's not even a funny matter, but anyways, you may be too strong and be like, okay, why you so tough? You act like a man. You're too tough. Soften up. Okay, I want to. Okay, well, if you're able to take some of this weight, or you able to lead, maybe I don't have to be so rough or be so strong. I can embrace my feminism more and
You
be
know, ladies,
softer.
this is how I've been. Guys, y'all should be proud of me. I've been being very nice, haven't I? Right, guys?
Yes, you have.
Yeah, nicer than usual. Yes.
Nicer than usual. All right. Being feminine is a choice, just like being masculine is a choice. At the least, it's an extension of who you already are. When you see Rebecca and Leah, more specifically, we look at Isaac's wife. Abraham sent his servant to go find a wife because the women that were around him were ratchet. They did not have a sense of being righteous. They were not able to fit into the mold of what Abraham needed for his son. So he sent his servant to go find a wife for him. And he found Isaac's future wife, and she was already being feminine. She didn't know who this old man was that was asking her for help. He didn't even say, please, can you help me get some water? Can you help water my camels? And she was more than willing to do that out of her femininity, her desire to be submissive, her desire to serve. It had nothing to do with her circumstances. It was something that was already baked into the pie. And when it comes to men, we don't have the option of turning on and off our masculinity in most cases. We have to be masculine. And also, it's an extension of who we already are. I think that a lot of women are choosing to be assertive, aggressive, and be masculine. It's not a switch that you just turn on and turn off. Either you have it or you don't. And I think this may be the root of what we're talking about here, why a lot of men may choose to go to different cultures and different societies, because those women are already operating within their feminine. Over here, we talk about men being providers, protectors, problem solvers, prophets, and priests. We don't stop hammering on those topics. And we also teach men to look for women who are sweet, that's submissive, focused on wellness and nutrition, effeminate, hold men in high esteem, and are temples of the Holy Spirit. At the end of the day, men are attracted to femininity, and they're going to find that no matter where it is. And if women in the Black community or any community feel that they have to be strong, they have to be things that men are not interested in, we're going to continue to see more men divest from the Black community. As Dr. Umar said, percentage wise, Black men date out of their race more than anybody else. So I know that Black women have been given a bad deal in many cases, just like black men, with some of the things we deal with culturally. But at the end of the day, it's going to be men who choose women. Until Black women get on one knee and propose to men, it doesn't really matter. Women are going to have to figure it out.
Right, but to just you said something just a while ago about strong, but your partner, your friend, before he left, he said his wife was strong.
Mm-hmm.
So why didn't he leave her? You understand? So again,
Well, what
let you.
DK said was, I'm going to clarify for him. He said that at the end of the day, no matter how strong she is, they have an understanding that whatever decision she comes up with, or he's going to be held ultimately responsible. And I side with that 100%. Men are being held ultimately responsible for everything that happens underneath that roof, by God, by man, and even by the woman when she ain't doing right. She's still going to hold them accountable. And men should be okay with that. The best thing that men can do is choose to be with women who understand that dichotomy, that no matter how much of a rebel she is, that he's going to be held accountable, and she needs to set him up for success and not try to steer him or manipulate him behind the scenes whenever she wants him to do something that he's going to be ultimately responsible for also. So it goes back to I believe that black women and women in the West in general, and women in our communities, both of all colors, I've come to the conclusion that women don't care what we talk about. I really believe that. But at the same time, we're going to continue to have a bit of a drain of men participating in relationships that are effective until we get this thing figured out. And in the meanwhile, some men in the black community, being specific, they can just go somewhere else and find what they're looking for. What am I missing?
I guess you're missing the
Excuses.
fact that if all the black men go looking for somewhere else, then I guess the black women are, once again, if they don't want to go to other races, are forced to just be single and raising children on their own. So if black
Mhm.
men decide to just go ahead and go look elsewhere, but a black woman doesn't desire to marry or date out of their race, then we're left to quote unquote be strong because we have no other choice but to play every role
No, they have a choice to be strong or to be submissive or soft. It's a
to
choice.
themselves. No, to themselves. If the black man isn't there and
Hmm.
we have a family to raise, I'm not going to be out here being weak and unhearted. You want to get ran over. You have to play a role of the masculine side too.
There.
Correct.
And I
Mhm.
Correct.
and let's talk about the other side. I find that a lot of the black men that have crossed over to the white, and then when the white women get tired of them, like Tiger Woods, again, these women turn on them, and then so
Well,
were
that's
those
that's
women? Did
that's a bit
those women
subjective. I
stop being
mean, and
submissive
I'm not trying to play tit for tat, but black women divorce black men at the highest rate of any group of women in the world. Black women
based on
divorce their
what knowledge
men.
you? Based on what statistics? I work in the courthouse. I process divorces every day.
Check out
Okay,
blackdemographics.com.
and
Stats made for black people
I
by black
promise
people.
you, I process divorces every day, 100 and more. And let me tell you, you'd be amazed that you got more foreigners coming into this country getting divorced than anything.
I didn't say by volume. I said percentage wise. Black women are 80% more likely to divorce their husband. If black women have a college degree, it goes to 90% percentile of chance of them divorcing. White women are around 75%. Now, I'm not talking
I
about
believe,
Harrisburg.
I
Yeah.
believe, I believe it's change. I believe it's changing. But
Mhm.
they divorced. Why are they divorcing our husband? You putting a lot of questions on the woman. But what
The
you
number one
talking to
reason
black men?
the number one reason why couples divorce it is because of irreconcilable differences. The second reason is because of financial issues and financial irreconcilability. Things are not reconciled financially. Um, and then you have cheating somewhere in a very close second or third. So those are the primary reasons why. And I'm not trying to say one group is wrong or necessarily right. All I'm trying to say is that the same issues that we were talking about with regard to people in the black community maybe having some issues, and that's why black Christian men are divesting from the black community. Those same men are also finding issues in the dating arena and also with their partners. And again, at the end of the day, men are going to be the ones that go down on one knee and propose to the women. And men are the ones who gatekeep relationships and marriage. Um, so we've got to figure something out to make this situation a little
Communication,
bit better.
communication.
And
I
that's what
think
we're doing right now,
the
right?
listening, the
Hmm.
listening, like it has to extend beyond the stereotype, the
Okay.
miseducated.
A question for you,
The
Tanya. Without blaming black men or men in general, what can black women improve on to be better selections for their potential partners and husbands?
patience,
So black women can improve on their patience. Okay, that's it.
be a patience. I do as I was a single mother prior to meeting my husband. We are a blended family, and let me tell you. So I love the one thing what Andrea was saying that
Hmm.
when I met my husband, number one, let me let y'all know, I didn't play wifey. One of the things we dated, I didn't play wifey. We didn't spend 2 year, 10 years waiting for, no, it's either we grown, you know what you want. My husband, we went on our date. He asked me That was in April. He asked me to
This was
marry him
after you
in.
had your children or before you had your children?
Yeah, I had my children prior in a prior relationship. Okay,
Okay,
I
so
was married
and how many
previously.
children did you have before you met your husband?
My husband had 3, and I have 2. So I
And you
have.
guys have two, how many together?
We don't have any children together. We decided that's what we don't we didn't want any children together. My
Hmm.
husband, he's an older man, and we didn't want any children. I'm happy with our blended family. His oldest child is 40, and his youngest is 30. My
So the biggest
children
thing that
is
helped you with
20
your
months.
husband was learning how to be patient. That's something that was beneficial for your relationship?
So the beneficial of what I was going to say, getting back to what I was saying, one of the things I remember when he came in, and just being the man that he is, I remember, like Andre is saying, that I could step back and let him lead. You understand? And
So
I
why are you so
trusted
mad at these
him.
other men that ain't leading?
Huh?
Your husband doing a good job. Why are you mad at these other men?
Cause I'm talking about the men that do not want to step up and lead. You can't let. Again, I said what I said. You can't let the blind lead the blind. Um,
Hmm.
I want to see all my sisters to meet good men that can lead the household. I always said, when I was, prior to meeting my husband, and I was there, you got to be good enough for me and my children, because you coming into life with my sons being a role model. Okay, I remember, if I went on a date and that man did not open the door for me or anything, you dismiss yourself, because guess what? If you meet my sons now, like one is 18, full scholarship away, and the other one went to the Navy. If you met them, you see that they open the door. They are gentlemen. Do you hear me? They
Hmm.
are they are they're they're actually, see, if your wife is struggling getting to, ma'am, do you need help? So I was just going to bring any energy around my children. So
So
my
do you want your male sons to marry a strong, independent black woman?
oh god, you guys see this now. I I of course I would love for them to marry a black woman, but I tell them, don't
I said a
listen.
strong, independent black
Listen,
woman.
listen, listen to me. I'm explaining to you. I told them, you do not tolerate. My youngest one met this young black woman, and she and I was like, thank goodness, because he'll tell you in a minute, well, it's the community you place me in. I'm surrounded by all these white women. So I said, okay. So he met a young lady, and she was disrespectful to him. And I told him, I don't care what color she is, black and everything. And he told her, she called him some name. And he said, and one thing I'm not going to have and tolerate is you calling me a name because you're uncomfortable with yourself. And he never, 18 years old, okay? Though he was probably 17 at that
This was
time.
a white girl that called him a name.
No, that was a black woman. And I told him, and my, you don't, accept anyone emotional abuse or anything from a black woman, Latino woman, white woman, any woman.
So if your son couldn't, let's say he can't find that in his community, and he keeps running into Stay Keisha in them, would you be okay with him, dating a Stephanie, or perhaps dating Rebecca?
Oh, he surprised me. And I just be like, oh,
Now
y'all
your
don't want to
son,
see, y'all
now
gotta
he's
see
he's
that
dated
coming.
he's dated somebody interracial. Is that what you're
Oh
saying?
yeah, that's what I'm telling you. In the community that we live in.
Did he tell you
So
why he did that?
yes,
What was the reason why?
he said, mommy, the white girls basically, give it up easy.
They give it up easy. That's why he dates white women.
This is what, he's young. Come on, he's 17. He just turned 18. So he's still trying to figure it out. So I,
And the
I
black
can't
girls. So
hold.
you telling me the white girls give it up easy, but the black girls don't?
He was
That what you're saying?
no, first of no, in his mind, he was just like the black girls were just more. in his mind challenging in his felt like, but again, he's 7. You can't not go off of that. He's still learning. He's still learning
So
to,
your your son is
navigate.
at the same crossroads as a large number of black men. He's starting to identify that he has a lot easier access to white women, whatever that may mean. And he may have that same level of access with black women, but it comes with a little bit extra that he may not be interested in. And that's where this conversation comes
No, they
in.
give him more challenge. They give him, you like, he feels like you can't just come up to a black woman and just say anything. You understand? That's what his
But do you
take
get
on
how
it.
we're coming full circle? And now we're talking about your son dealing with the same
Hmm.
issues that men are talking about with some of the traditional stereotypes of black women being masculine and disagreeable and non-submissive.
It's not being disagreeable if I'm
Huh.
a woman and I know my worth, and I hold myself to a high
So your son
standard.
is not having sex with these black women.
Well, that's what he said. He's like, they don't give it up easy, them white girl. And I told him, like I said, he's still
That doesn't make sense.
Kaz, did you have something you want to throw in real quick? I see you raising your hand.
Yes, Lord, yes, because her son is it, in somewhat in the same generation as me. I'm 26, um, and I would say, not to. I'm not gonna speak for your son, ma'am, but some of the things that I've heard from black women, as I said, I only date black women, is that if you gonna slide in my DMs, you better be sending me $200 to pay for my nails. Um, if you're gonna come to me, you need to be taking care of my kid, even if I just met them.
Mm.
Um, being cussed at, being being taught to like I am nothing. And this is what I faced. And I've navigated on how to and I'm not just gonna say that's all black women. I've met very good black women too. I've met black women who are doctors, lawyers, um, you know, uh physicians assistants, and I can say there are some women who've done those same things, spoken the same way to me, who are at that occupational level. And then there are
Professional
some
white collar
women,
women.
hmm
yeah,
Hmm.
but I will also say, there are women who, within that same area that treat me with respect. But I would tell you, more often than not, I have been greeted with the expectancy to operate in husbandry before any type of getting to know you,
They
any
expect you
type of
to
courtship.
provide your traditional roles, and they
Yeah,
yeah.
and there's no type of respect or even expect, like I'm just supposed to take everything that comes with them. But I would say, and this is my question to any of y'all, any of the women on the panel: am I wrong if I cannot find a woman who is equally yoked with me as God has said, and because I can't find her in the black community, am I wrong for going out to pursue her in the Hispanic, the Asian, the white, or in Africa, or in the Caribbean? Am I wrong for that? Because
No, you no,
I
no,
would
you're not.
say, but I would just say, for me at least, how I view it is, I follow God. I submit to God before anybody. I'm not gonna submit to my culture. If you ask me, I'd submit to God before I care about my culture. My
Mm.
culture could suffer. I'm still gonna honor God. That's my perspective. You,
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
but that's just me. But I would say that in honoring God, whoever He leads me to, and whoever I choose to be a wife, for me, and being equally yoked with her, I would say that is what God has appointed for
Mm.
me. Am I wrong for that? Especially seeing some of the things I've seen and hearing some of the things I've heard.
So,
You
Kaz,
know,
you're telling me you want to sell out?
I wouldn't call myself a sellout. And before, the conversation, I'm an engineer, I'm educated, went to Baylor University, if we got to throw that stuff out here, but I don't even mention that stuff. I don't need to, because
Now give me 2 claps and a Ric Flair.
oh my,
So,
but
Tanya, did you have anything you want to add to that, or maybe Drea or Nakisha? You got a guy here. He's brilliant. What are you, 6'7", Kaz?
I'm 6'1".
This guy is a black Adonis, and we have a potential. We could lose guys like this, quote unquote. Um, what what can women do? Let's just throw it out there. What can women do to retain men like this, or is it's if he want to go, we gonna close the door behind him and kick him while he leaving?
Okay, why can't it be also vice versa? Why is
Mm,
it like it's a crime to almost be a black woman
mm.
that wants to see, succeed with a black man? Why? Because there are black women that have interest in other races or white men for the same reasons black men are leaving black women. So it's not a crime to be, you want to be in a certain situation lined up with a black man. It might not just work. Different relationships, different colors, however it mixes, they all don't equal out to a good thing.
The tough part about that, Drea, is in order to date and more successfully marry Hispanic men, Asian men, white men, you're gonna have to do the same thing that black men require, and that's gonna be submissive, focus on your wellness, your health, and your weight, be effeminate, hold men in high esteem, and for Christian men, be temples of the Holy Spirit. They're gonna require it just as much as probably more than black men.
Okay, but what
I
if
think
you
that
come with
black
all
women tend
those?
to be married interracially at a rate of 3 to 5%, the lowest, one of the lowest rates. And this is not a bash on black women, but they're also the least desired in the dating pool. So the same issues that are plaguing black women when it comes to dating black men are also an issue for other races. And most men who are successful in other races are very race loyal. So you gotta it's a long bridge to cross for black women to divest out of the community. But again, next to white men, I think we're probably neck and neck with Hispanics now. Black men are highly desired in other cultures, so there is a bit of a
Oh, they
difference, and I
definitely
will
are.
call you out on that.
They
Hmm.
definitely are. When I tell you, so my son 6'3" to 18, this is 18 year 6'3".
Mm,
When I tell you these white women, Latino, Asian, they are chasing him.
mm. And that is he an athlete also?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's
that's just he plays football, and they are.
it's over.
I mean, I went to to one of the restaurants in our neighborhood, and I was like,
Hmm.
wearing um his sweater, and that was, I have a friend there, and she named. I said, well, I'm his mom. Is he going to the white girl? Is he going to the NFL? Yes, right, and I'll be right there with him.
Mm.
So
But see, and that's the thing. A lot of the guys, men who are successful, tend to date out of the black race even more, and women have caught on to that too. But the thing about it is, if you have a black man 6 feet tall, has a promising career that brings status, those men are going to be in more high demand than a woman who is a PhD and is making $230,000 as a chemical engineer. The two don't mean the same thing in the dating market. And I think that for women to think that we're just going to divest and date out of our race and try to say the men are doing it, we're going to do it too and be better at it, I think it's a bit of a fallacy, and I don't think it's practical for most black women to think that that's a way out for them. They're still going to have to go through the landmine, quote unquote, of submissiveness, toning down your language, and just being someone who is what a man needs you to be versus who you want to be.
So what about if you're a
I
black
believe when a
woman
woman
that
need a
is submissive and do all those things? Then what? What about if you check off all those boxes?
Mhm.
Then what?
Well, again, we
Sign
over
me up.
here we talk about. Does anybody else want to answer this question? Because I can go on all day. But I think that
I jump
men.
in. I jump in.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
bro.
I'll jump in here. In a lot of this conversation, just to be frank, we're talking about people that just don't matter for this conversation. It's a lot of people that just won't cut it, and I believe you got to be able to notice that. You got to point that out for yourself. If you're having a hard time pointing it out for yourself, maybe you need to consult others, and you would also need to pray for some discernment surrounding the topic. Some of these people, like one of you ladies said earlier, they're just going to dismiss themselves, and you need to let them dismiss themselves.
I agree, and I also believe, like what Andre is saying is, I being submissive. I believe, and I truly believe, when a black woman meet a man who really that she could trust, and she could say, "I trust you to lead that," she becomes submissive, because I'm telling you again, you're able to let your guard down, your hair down, and you're able to submit because you want to. You understand?
But I'm
So,
gonna
so you
I'm
put
gonna
me.
push back on that real quick
Hey,
here. I'm gonna push
all
back
right.
on that yet again, because when we look at the biblical example of women who are chosen by great men of God, even when they weren't in their full purpose. I don't know if it was Rebecca or Leah. I think it was Rebecca. Leah. No, Rebecca. She was already being submissive. That's how she got chosen by Abraham and Abraham's son. She was already operating in that femininity, right? There were other women that were probably at that well that didn't help him, right? So she stopped what she was doing. She submitted to a man that she didn't even know, and she was happy to do it. It wasn't a switch that she turned on or turned off. You look at the example of Ruth from the Bible, right? Naomi mentored her and said, "Hey, it's too late for me. I'm old and my husband's dead. You need to go get that high value man over there, Boaz." So what did Ruth do? She became what Boaz needed, right? She didn't decide to just do her own thing, but she took advice from her older mentor and she became what that man needed. She focused on trying to be more attractive than the other women that were around her. You know, Naomi told her, you need to go get yourself a nice outfit, put on some perfume, and take a bath and become what this man desires. Just saying that out loud in most public forums is an insult to most modern women. Saying that
When
you
the
have to
white
become
when the
what a
white
man wants.
master when the white master was desiring the black woman and raping the black woman, what did he see in her? Did he see a
What do you
feminine
mean by that?
He
sneaking
saw
out of the
somebody. He
house?
saw somebody that he could control and couldn't consent. Every woman I'm
So
talking
she
about right
so he
now,
didn't see her
every
being
woman that I'm talking
submissive.
about right now had the ability to consent to what they wanted. Rebecca, Leah, all these women from 4,000 years ago. They were asked if they wanted to be a part of an
So this
arranged
is
marriage.
answering your question, right?
Mhm.
This is answering your question when you said, like, well, some women, these women are submissive. When you get there, you're trying to lead on that some black women are not submissive, because they have a different role. There's some people just they're leading their household, and then when you do meet somebody that you could trust, and you're saying you got to come. She's still a woman. She's still a woman leading her household. When I'm in meetings, board meetings, I'm still a woman. I'm still feminine. I'm still sensitive. You understand? That
You
don't,
got to
that
figure it out.
doesn't take away from
I
me because
You know, women have just got to figure it out because men are demanding femininity. They're demanding
just because
submissiveness,
we speak
and
up
just
doesn't
like
mean that you're not.
your son is finding these women are fawning over him because they're more submissive, they're more agreeable. A man is going to
He
go for
talking
that
about
over
sex.
someone
He
who's
young.
not.
He talking about you. I'm like I said. He's talking about mommy. They want to give it up. They want no. I'm like, son, you
Do
can't.
you
You
do
got
you
to
think
have
that
respect.
attention is going
My
to
goal
stop?
is to teach him how to have respect for himself as a young man. I've been instilling in him where you're heading.
I have a
These
question.
people, they're not on the
Hmm.
same track, and you don't want to get caught up like these other black men or other men getting caught up out here talking about they come back years later, oh, he raped me. And so I said, so you have to handle yourself and teaching our young men to handle themselves with respect. You don't see your stepdad out there, you don't see your father out there, and the men in your village out there that they're married and all that stuff. You don't see that, but he's learning.
Yeah,
He's
and
navigating.
also just real quick, Elevated Mental Health Services. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you guys have any, make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel. We love having these conversations and getting to the bottom of all this. We're not
this
seeing a lot of this in our community because a lot of the men may be leaving to go somewhere else. That's why we're having this conversation. Do we stay or do we go? You know?
I have
There's
a
something I want to
question.
add. Oh, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. Okay, I have a question, and anybody can answer it. It's just in general.
We're gonna pass this question to Martin, and then we're gonna pass it to who else wants to talk a little bit here. We'll talk to Martin and then Keenan and REJ. No, Martin, REJ, then Keenan. You guys can tackle this question.
Okay, so we're talking a lot about being submissive and just throwing the word around. What does being submissive in a black man's eyes look like? What does that mean to you as a black woman being submissive to you, or just a woman in general being submissive? And this doesn't have anything behind it. I just want to truly genuinely know, what does that mean to you? What does it look like? What are you just what does it look like to you as a black man? Or what is it? What is it?
Okay, I would say that's a good question. So to me, as a black man who was recently married to a black woman for 4 months, submissiveness looks like I come to the table with suggestions. You may not like it, but you're going to at least hear me out on what I'm bringing to the table as far as the idea, for example. And then if you disagree, there's a way in which you can rebuttal or give reasons to why you disagree, right? And then also, if I'm leading, because as men, if I'm a pilot of an airplane, if the airplane goes down, that's my responsibility. If the airplane lands, that's also my responsibility. So as a submissive posture, right? It looks in your heart posture. It looks on how you speak to me and how you speak to others. It looks in your behavior, right? Again, we're going to argue. We're going to disagree. But how does that look like outside the house and inside the house? Right? Are you cutting me off? Are you calling me outside of my name? Are you bringing back remarks that really are trying to put a man down? Or, okay, we can come in disagreements, but still give that sense of respect and love that we have outside. Just because we have a misunderstanding or disagreement doesn't mean that in the day we're still for each other. So that, I hope that kind of answers your question.
How does that resonate with you, Drea?
I mean, it's not shocking. What he said isn't shocking. I just want to hear it from a black man. What does that
We
look
got
like
we got
to
we got
you?
two more for you here. REJ, what you got?
Okay, for me, what it means is respect. Like the brother said, no cutting off, no yelling, no raising your voice and nothing like that. If I am in a position and I make the decision, let's go with that. Because like he said, I'm gonna land this plane or I'm gonna crash this plane. Whether if I land this plane, we're good. But if I crash this plane, yeah, we didn't make it. Sorry about that. But just respect me in all aspects. Respect is just like you want me to treat you, treat me the same way. Because if I did the same thing to you, would you like it? If the answer is no, you wouldn't like it, don't do it to me. That's
You
being
know,
submissive and that's being respected.
men in general, especially black men, I think I heard somebody say this before. We just want you to show us the same amount of respect you show your white boss.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. But
All
listen
right,
to
what you
this.
got for us, Keena, for
So
respect or submissiveness?
y'all bear with me a minute. I'm gonna answer the question. I got like a little more to say, but that I just so happen to be third. I'm gonna have to go with both of the guys just said. Like and sum it up. It's being respectful. It is whatever that person you're in a relationship with is deeming as respectful, and that's within reason, right? Like if it's some crazy stuff they got on their mind, of course that's not going to work. But if it's within reason, it's whatever is going to be considered respectful. And on the light side of things, like a couple of like the no-goes for guys is usually going to be being disagreeable. It's usually going to be um being like you get to those points of raising your voice, elevated arguments. You cannot have a conversation about something that you might disagree on. You cannot have a conversation that's slowed down enough to have emotions taken out of. and it's so much other stuff. I mean, it goes deep into your character, and how you're treating your person in their face, how you're treating your person behind their back. It goes deep, but it's ultimately with everybody, what all the other guys are saying, what's been said for a while now, what was said earlier on this phone call. And it's about being respectful. Like if you're gonna treat your man with respect, uh, it's probably going to fall within the lines of what he would consider submission from or submissivity from his lady, and it's probably going to be a healthier situation. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I appreciate all your input. I mean, it's nothing that I didn't think it was not, or, whatever. But I just wanted to genuinely hear what you had to say. That's all.
I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to talk a little bit more before giving it all the way back over to you, Punch. It's gonna be a second. And I'm sorry, y'all, like for coming in so late. I had some other stuff going on, but I did have an opportunity to listen to just about half of the show before I even checked in. So that question you asked right there, I think is a beautiful question, and I think that it should go back to address the previous questions earlier that wasn't. It did not seem to me like it was answered or answered well. What are we considering to be a strong woman? And I won't try to answer that question myself, but what I will say is when we put that shoe on the other foot, and we say what is a strong man, and who's a man that's a leader, I'm going to tell you like a little bit of the things that looks like for us, and how early that looks like, what strength is in a man versus a strong woman. So a strong man versus a strong woman. A strong man is a person, a man who learns restraint first and foremost. I'm talking about as soon as we start to realize that we are strong in a physical sense, because typically we are stronger than women at an early age. We're talking about teenage years. We must, at that point in time, immediately learn restraint, and that doesn't come without mental growth. For a lot of us, we got religion in our lives already. It doesn't come without spiritual growth. So one of the huge factors that we as men are always considering is restraint when we step into a relationship, and guys are typically by far superior physically than a woman, but women come with a more superior attitude, or whatever the case is. We have to be full of restraint to not respond to it in any kind of wild way, on some stuff from far back, the way things might have been handled. We're not doing that. We have to be.
Somebody said one time the greatest measure of power is restraint.
Yeah.
And I can see what you're saying too. I do see a lot of women who feel they're strong, but they don't have that restraint. It's almost like a weapon that they wield and put in front of your face, and it's not the kind of strength that men have or are expected to have. Because if you having a problem with your strength and I'm having a problem with my strength, and we disagree, somebody can get hurt very badly.
We're gonna fight it out. Yeah, exactly. That's my point, and I appreciate you for chiming in on that. Like that's the point. It goes so much further past that, and all these different, any kind of different situation scenarios that play out. But that's key, and that's what I was getting at. I do not see or hear about these situations where women are saying, when I found that man who I could yield to, I yielded to him, and it's like, I know you think that's good, and it is if it works out for you, but we hear a lot more of the negative side of that than the positive. So how is it working out for everybody? And my answer to that is not. It's not working out. I hear this story way too much where women are in that type of mentality where like, you know, this guy could get walked over until he shows me different.
So women are saying if the man isn't strong, then she's not going to be weak, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
She's not going to be submissive.
She's not going to be submissive. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's so, and what we're saying right now is, if for us, submissivity is respect. So if he ain't strong enough for what they think, then they don't feel like they need to respect him enough, or respect him at a level that he requires.
I think a big part of submission from women, first of all, it's a part of being feminine. And I think another part of it is women need to understand a man's role. But if women don't have men around, if their father wasn't around, if the community doesn't have men around, whatever the case may be, Andrea, you need to connect your device, your audio devices and all that stuff to your podcast. But women need to come to the understanding that men are going to be held accountable for what happens in their home and also to God. With that mindset, I was in the Air Force, and we had a pilot and we had an AC. This analogy has been thrown around. And the aircraft commander was ultimately responsible not only for the execution of the mission, but the safety of the plane, the safety of the crew, the cargo, everything. He was responsible. The AC was usually someone that helped him navigate in many cases, and he would be a backup if the aircraft commander couldn't. I'm sorry, the co-pilot was someone that could. He was there to help in case the commander needed help, whatever the situation may be. That being the case, the co-pilot knew that he had to support the commander of the plane, or else it could be a very dangerous situation, right? Not at any case did he try to take over the plane or to make people think that he was the commander. It would be a total conflict of interest. I think that women, if they want to be in healthy, godly relationships, they have to know that, first of all, this man is going to be held accountable by God, by society, and by me to do these things correctly. And if he doesn't, it's a loss of face. He's not going to succeed in his mission. Women need to have that understanding. And if you're dealing with a man where you can't support him because he's not a good aircraft commander, don't date him. Don't open your legs to him and have children with him.
He's disqualified himself.
Don't deal with men who aren't providers, protectors, problem solvers, prophets, and priests. Right? And if you can't attract that kind of man into your life, you need to work on your ability to be SWEET, sweet. Right? So women need to do a better job of picking good men, and they need to do a better job of becoming the women that these men need to be better commanders of the plane of their lives. Does that help at all, Drea?
I'm taking in everything. I appreciate everyone's input. Everybody have their own perception or everything. But what about if a guy has a good representative in the beginning and that representative falls off? Of course, you know, you get out the situation, but sometimes I guess you can be blinded by things also. But that's neither here or there.
No, that's a good point. These are the kind of questions that women need to ask, because when women are outside of their community, they're transplants in a different city, they're away from their family, or they have men that are disinterested in helping them to choose good men. Women's intuition goes haywire and they pick bad men. So how do you determine if a man is a good man? His credibility is his currency. Men who are who they say they are, they have a tangible track record of who they are, right? You can see the evidence that this person is telling you. If this guy is saying that he's, he works for the state, you should be able to see that, right? What does his LinkedIn account say? Have you met any of his friends that can concur with that? You know, if this guy is saying that, you know, he wants to be in a long-term relationship with you, okay. How can you test that? By not opening your legs and testing his ability to like you without having sex with you. Right? So these are things we're selling you guys back water. This stuff is all obvious. And women need to be able to to be able to figure these things out, because we've lost the man in the house saying this isn't a good man. I can tell by talking to him for 3 minutes that this dude's he's a professional loser. Women don't have that, and that's why these so many bad guys are being picked up, and they're being recycled amongst the same women, right? 75% of the children that are born in our community are fathered, illegitimate children are fathered by 14 to 18% of the same men. That is wild. I think one of the best indicators that a man isn't who he should be is, does he have multiple baby mothers? Number one, out the gate. So
I would like to piggyback off of that real quick. I agree with everything you said. I would say another factor to consider is, what are women using to filter or to test these men, right? Who are you using? There's wisdom and wise counsel, as the Bible says. And so even if you are away from your community, away from your family, you have a church family in the new city that you moved to. Do you have men and women who are in relationships and or married that can then vet the gentleman? I believe that, especially within the Black community, if there is vetting, like you said, that he shows his representative, is the vetting being done long enough to see the mask come off? Because if you say, okay, I've known him for 3 months, we're moving in together, you setting yourself up for failure. Are you taking the time to meet his family? Are you taking the time then to go out in social settings, right? Not I'm talking about the club. I'm talking about in settings where then he has to then put on a suit, for example, to the art museum, things like that that's outside his comfort zone. And then what is he showing you? What is he saying?
Is it just a vampire relationship? You only see him between the hours of 12 and 6 a.m.
There you go. Does he keep his word? Or do you keep catching him in lies, but then making excuses for him, right? So there's a vetting process that I believe strongly, as someone who's traveled the world, at least in the one avenue or one thing that we can do to improve Black relationships in America is the vetting process that was used in yesterday's that needs to be brought back in today's.
See, what's happening is we have more women that are separated from their families during the time of their lives when they should be selecting a man. And as a result of that, we're finding that women are choosing men based off of how they feel, not off of what Martin was saying earlier. Is this guy a good choice? Does my father, can he see through who this guy is saying that he is? And women typically, especially with social media and apps, they're all flooding and going for the same men. And these men are spoiled for choices, and they're useless for a relationship, but they'll string you along.
Mm-hmm.
That being the case, women need to get out of this environment where they're not transparent with being able to talk about who they're dating. They need to be a part of a social group, like Martin was saying. They have to find a way to vet these men and not be to a point where you are 1 month or 2 months into the relationship and you don't even know who this person is, but you're in love with them. Your auntie gets sick and you're asking him, can you pray? And he's like, well, pray. Well, I'm God. So we gotta get women on the right path to be able to vet good men, because Tyrone and John Travius, they're running amok, and women are not picking up on these signs, or they don't want to, because they want to believe that this high value professional narcissist is perfect for them. Y'all get what I'm saying?
For sure.
Yeah. Guys, we're running long here. We have one more topic. Look at this guy. I ain't got no suits because I ain't trying to be president. That's DK rapping over here. a little bit of Lil Wayne for y'all. But any more comments before we leave? Drea, did you have anything, Tanya, that you guys want to discuss, or whatever the case may be?
No, I'm good. I appreciate all the input. I appreciate this platform, and yeah, continue doing what you do.
What was your feeling of the whole session, Tanya? Was there anything of value being transmitted here, or we're just a bunch of guys who don't know what they're talking about?
No, I don't think you don't know what you're talking about. Again, it's just got to get back. It's more rooted. It's a lot of healing that needs to to be done in the back between the black man and black woman, whereas we can start back trusting each other, because it definitely goes both ways. I do agree. One of the things, something you said a while ago, um about the black man and the black, that's one of my mottos, like in my household, like with my family. I always say, you know, I cannot stand when people go out into like society and at work, and they treat their people out there, you know, at their job, people they don't may not like, with respect, but then don't come home and know how to talk to each other. So again, you got to know how to set up healthy communication within a household, you know. And as women, I do believe, as women, I talk to younger women than me. Do not sell yourself short. I agree 100%. Not spending enough time to date or get to know that man. And um believe it or not, I would my husband and I, we elected to wait till we was married to have sex. It was no, I'm gonna rush into we jumping in bed. We waited. So I mean, we told the story. We I met my husband 2 years prior to me us dating. And at the time, I'm building my business. We looked at each other, we met each other. It just wasn't the time. 2 years later, he called me. This is the story we tell at our wedding, you know. He called me, we started talking, we started dating. His best man stood up and said he told them, I'm gonna marry her. I had no idea. What, you know, I had no idea. You know. So it's like, again, it's so many ways that we're gonna have to get back to healing and talking and building our communication with each other in order for us to start putting
And I
bringing
think
our
that's
black
key.
families back together.
And that's why we're trying to have these conversations as men. This is the
Mm-hmm.
men's platform. I will be honest with you. I don't think a lot of what we expect from women is very well received from women, which is very
Mm-hmm.
strange. So we don't typically. I don't like having conversations like this with women, because it's a lot of offense that can take place to hear that someone is not making the mark. But for men, we need to know when we're not making the mark, and we have to communicate and be honest with our women nowadays. The numbers are just too
Absolutely.
bad, and we have a situation where, if we can just be transparent with this topic, black men are checking out of the black community. They're leaving the black community, and either they're not participating in any community at all, or they're somewhere over in Brazil somewhere. You know, we gotta we gotta create a place for black men to have a soft landing if they're going to come back to the black community. But women are going to have to be okay with giving up power, and those same amount of men are going to have to be okay with taking on power, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I
So,
appreciate you saying that part. Making them responsible as well, because it's not all the black women's fault. You gotta we gotta hold each other accountable,
black men
you
have a
know?
long way to go. We don't participate in society. We've forgotten what it means to be truly spiritually connected to
Mm-hmm.
Christ, through God. We have a very difficult time when it comes down to taking accountability, and we have too much feminine energy because a lot of us were raised by single parent households with our mothers instead of a father being around. We've got to rectify that, and we got to figure that out. But
Absolutely.
guys, I'm about to go ahead and pray it out. I really appreciate everybody coming through. I was gonna have Martin pray, but he didn't respond to my comment in the private chat. That's cool. Um, but it's all good. If you guys want to go ahead and prepare for a quick prayer. Father, we thank you for just opening our ears, opening our eyes, and just giving us a different side to these conversations. We have men that are, like I said before, checking out of society and just not being productive members of this world that you want us to be a part of. We want to reach out for the heart of these men. We pray that you help us to inspire them to rejoin society, rejoin their communities. And if you've called them somewhere else, like you called Jesus, like you've called Joseph and other people that had to leave their homes, Give them the tools to be successful wherever they are planted, Lord. And for those that you want to come back and rebuild those walls like Nehemiah, give them the credibility, give them the skills, and also just give them the respect that they need in their community to be successful, Lord. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen, amen, and amen.
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 All
My
right,
apologies.
guys.
I didn't see it.
Go ahead, bro.
I said, my apologies. I didn't see your message.
Oh, I'm just yanking your chain, man. We'll be back up on Wednesday, guys. We'll be talking about how to choose a good woman. The examples I was talking about in Genesis with Rebecca and Leah, some jewels, and how Christ chooses the church. It's a template for the kind of woman that we should be looking for. That sweet principle, submissive, wellness, effeminate, hold men in high esteem, and temples of God's Spirit. So we're looking forward to talking to you guys about that. And if you have any ideas for other shows, let us know. And more importantly, make sure you guys go to YouTube, like, share, subscribe to this, because this isn't going to go anywhere unless you guys help us to get it there. Any more questions before we check out? All right.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have one last question.
Go ahead, bro.
Can you break down that the sweet breakdown of
Acronym. It's an acronym. Yeah.
The SWEET acronym is SWEET. Everything we talked about, and we were giving feedback to Drea and Tanya. Men are looking for women who are submissive. They're looking for women who focus on their wellness and nutrition, their weight, and how they look physically, right? We're looking for women who are effeminate or feminine. Men aren't looking for women who are competitive and masculine, right? Men are also looking for women who hold men in high esteem. Back to what REJ was saying and what Keena was saying. High esteem is just another word for saying respect. Women have to have an intrinsic respect for men. When you look at the example I used in the Bible, that old man came asking that young girl for water. She had respect for men. For someone she didn't know as a man, and say, I'm going to help you. Think about how that contrasts with so many of the situations we see in modern times. And finally, we're looking for women who are temples of the Holy Spirit. They have the ability to be able to receive word from God, be able to inspire their men with prayer, and also to be a spiritual leader for the children and for their wider community and with the other women also. So those are the things that men are looking for. SWEET.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We will catch you all later.